Today's sponsor is Audible, with an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more. Get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial at audible.com/GOT.
Welcome to the Game of Thrones podcast, the officially unofficial podcast for Game of Thrones on HBO. I'm Jan.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're talking about Season 7, Episode 4, titled The Spoils of War, or as Bronn is well aware, The Soils of War. Dickon had no idea, but Bronn knew all about it. What'd you think of this episode on second viewing?
First of all, did you know that the gold made it to King's Landing, Jim?
No, I hadn't heard that 1,000 times in our inbox and on Twitter.
Would you like me to
Reddit.
tell you 400 more times?
Please do, yes.
Well, that's a consequence of being wrong on an instant podcast. Everybody want to make sure. Everybody want to make sure we got it. But yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure how I missed it the first time. I should have felt the icy cold hand.
Because nobody cares about Randall Tarley when he talks. Like, get out of here, Randall.
He sat when he's talking. It sounds like a smug, eye-rolling version of the teacher from Charlie Brown. It's just wah, flogging, wah, gates and gold and things.
And my son's a disappointment.
Right. I named the one I'm proud Dickon, so everyone can make cock jokes at his expense.
Right. Yeah, that's on him.
But yeah, we fucked that up. As I suspected on subsequent watches, I still have I feel like there's tons of questions to ask about the military strategy, the geography of this combat, the timelines. And I mentioned in the preview podcast that I'd heard from multiple sources that if you don't like jetpacking, or if that's bothered you in the past, then brace yourself for this season, because it's just going to get worse as the Double Ds frantically try to get everybody into the position they need to have the clashes they need to get the story told. Yeah. And, I made the conscious decision to not get too wrapped up in all that. So
how's that working out for you?
It's for me, it's fine. I just have to. I feel like I have to give a little part of the podcast to the people that it is bugging, and
Yeah, I'm not one of them. I at this point am more interested in this coming to a conclusion that is in some way conventionally satisfying.
Yeah, totally.
Than trying to worry about how the story is changing as a result of the lack of books.
Well, I think that there is a nuanced way to look at it, that to the extent that this is, part of its success stems from it being kind of a geopolitical potboiler. To understand the stakes, you have to understand, what are the material objectives in the world and how far apart they are, and how far away those things are, and how much time it takes to get them. Because if not, then it's kind of Buck Rogers, like anything can happen at any time. And so I get it. It's a bummer, but on the other hand, this might be the only version of this story that we get to see an ending to. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to allow a lot more things, but it's too bad that it's a little bit more simplified than it used to be. For example, how did Dany know this train was coming through at this particular time? How did she know where they're at? How did the Dothraki get there and be able to intercept them? Where did this battle even take place? Those things are not immediately clear from watching the episode. I think they can be divined, but for a show that used to be praised for grounding things with this giant map that shows where everybody is in the earth, they show the map, but I don't know, but it does much good anymore. So I don't want to harp on it, because
especially when they don't show Sam at all in this episode and they still show Old Town, it's
right.
Why show Old Town in the beginning? Right.
Why not show the Blackwater Rush, so people know where that is in relation to Highgarden? Or why not show Highgarden so people know how far away Highgarden is from? But they don't, and I don't want to harp on it, because I think that you and I don't have a pretty fair view of that. But I do feel like, to the extent that we're a fan podcast, you have to give a little bit of that voice.
Yeah, I think maybe it's not great to start a podcast with shitting on maybe one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones ever.
Hey, man.
Because on second viewing, I still really, really love this episode.
No, the stuff that worked really worked. I'm curious to see if there's. So I want to know, like up front, like did you feel a bit more heat from the John Danny thing, or are you still
this
left?
time looking for it? I noticed it was
Okay.
happening. I was less concerned with the drawings because drawings don't seem to be all that significant, other than like literally what John says, like, "Hey, look, the first men and the children
Right.
got together." And fought the White Walkers before it's all happening again.
Right. Although there's a lot of people that wrote in with the take, essentially, it's like, just because you find cave paintings of mythological events does not mean they're true. I mean, we uncover the poems of Homer, and we don't literally believe that the Olympians were
Sure.
a thing. So, like, but they, I guess the question is, do these people in this medieval quasi time period find those things significant? And it does seem it was significant to both of them.
And from a storytelling standpoint, are they really going to say, "Hey, look at all these drawings," and then those turn out to not actually be significant in any
but that's
way
the thing,
because
like,
they're made up?
Also,
no, of course not. It's a story.
I think it's more like why was this convincing to Danny? The problem, the thing is it was like from our standpoint, we've seen the White Walkers, we know it's true,
right.
And then I guess it's also the fact that you've got this guy saying, "I've literally seen this guy." And he's real, and then he goes and finds a cave. Unless you want to go with the Jim joke that John himself made those cave paintings.
Everybody on Reddit's making that joke. Everybody.
Yeah,
and I was like,
but you were on record like 10 minutes after with it. Like you might be the
that
first.
was an original thought, certainly, but I think everybody else had the same original thought. Is the problem.
Yeah, I saw people drawing comics of
Yeah.
it. Like it was. There's a
If
lot
I
of
were
fun.
more
about it.
talented, I would have.
But
made a
yeah,
song
so
or
do you
something.
think? I think this is easily a top 5 episode, probably a top 3 episode, maybe the best episode of all time.
Oh boy, yeah. No, I still really like the Blackwater, the finale, of the Blackwater.
Yeah,
Not the finale of that season, but the epic
penultimate,
conclusion
yeah,
of the
yeah.
battle. Man,
because
I don't know if I can. Excuse me. I don't know if I can give it number 1, but I would certainly put it way high up there, certainly in the top 5.
it's hard for me to judge because most of the big moments I saw coming. Like the only ones I didn't, like season 1, I hadn't read the books yet, so like that's the first thing that like what the hell.
I haven't read any of the books, so they were all like that to me.
But it's hard for me to gauge, like, was this bigger than X, Y, or Z? Because this I didn't, I don't know anything about what's coming. So, like, all this is spectacle on top of being a surprise. And also I think there's almost 2 types of great Game of Thrones episodes. There's the spectacle, and then there is kind of like the emotional, shocking / character moments.
Yeah,
like
Hard Home versus the Red Wedding.
Like
yeah.
Red Wedding, Purple Wedding versus Hard Home versus Battle of the Bastards versus Spoils of War.
Yeah.
It's, it's almost like you need 2 separate brackets.
Right. And this, I don't know if you watched any of like the featurettes on the website, HBO's website.
I
but
did.
They had an inside that scene, Into the Fire or whatever it was called, where they showed all the behind the scenes of making the Drogon Lannister battle scene.
Right.
And it was crazy. Like
Yeah.
they set a record for the number of people simultaneously on fire.
Yeah.
20 people at a time they would set on fire with a massive fireball, and then they would count to 12, like 1, 2,
Right.
and you were supposed to hold your breath the whole time,
Yeah.
and act and flail around and then fall on your face, and then
Right.
at 12 they would stop and people with fire extinguishers come in and douse you, and I couldn't believe how many people they set on fire at the same time.
Right. Because that's the thing, like, you can hold your breath for a decent amount of time with practice, but, like, when you're on fire and your adrenaline's jacked and you're flailing around, I bet those 12 seconds can seem like a long time.
Absolutely.
But it was utterly convincing. Like, there's a couple times that, particularly the guy that, like was fighting and then slumped over this, like, armor stand or whatever, like, that, it paid, like, not going CGI and actually getting a stuntman on fire, was incredible. And yeah, doing that all simultaneously, because I wondered that myself, because I've seen people being set on fire before,
Right.
and it always seems like a big thing, like there's a countdown and and you have to get the guy out, because that's the thing people don't realize. It's not just wearing the crazy insulated stuff, it's not just the gel, it's the fact that you can't breathe because you get flame in your lungs and you die. The fact that they did 20 at once is bonkers.
Yeah.
And I would love to know what the safety protocols and stuff are. But, man, for sheer spectacle, it was awesome. It really showed how terrible these dragons are. Like, they are the nuclear warheads of their time. And I thought that was another when they show all those blackened and burnt bodies, it remind me of a lot of like the post Hiroshima and Carnage. And it's just really, you hear people talk about the horrors of war. Well, here it is.
Yeah.
Getting burnt to death by a giant lizard, getting run down by these screaming horse lords. It's a shitty way to die.
Yeah, but it's great to see.
Yeah.
How much more do you want to talk about before we get to the recap?
I guess I do want to issue to another mea culpa for yet another fuck up we did last week on the podcast. Someone asked us, or I think we pondered or whatever, about whether when Danny said your two brothers were lost, and we speculated about whether John knew about Bran being killed and whether or not being killed. He's a survival, and Danny, two people. I'll give credit for the first two people. Abe's A said, I want to remind you that Sam has seen Bran because he led him through the wall when he's going north, and later on when John makes it back to the wall after escaping the whole being a wildling thing, Sam tells John about it. So also Lorraine said in season 5 when Sansa's berating Theon Reek for killing Bran and Rickon, he admits that he couldn't find them and he killed 2 other boys instead. Later when Brienne saves them, he says he can't follow because John will kill him, and Sansa replies that he will tell him about Bran and Rickon. So when she is convincing John to take back Winterfell, she says it's their home and also mentions Bran and Arya, quote unquote, wherever they are. So it's obvious, and we should have known that John knows that Bran is alive. It wasn't a one-sided thing like I speculated. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know that that was like an error of us thinking those things never happened or just not remembering them, because
totally.
like that's my biggest problem on this, is trying to remember 7 seasons worth of stuff that's happened, and especially those early seasons, because they're way more intricate in a lot of ways, and things are subtly hinted at, like this dagger. I really did not remember the significance of it after watching the episode the first time, and I went and I read a little bit about it, and it's more significant. But man, if there's like a couple of lines in there about something, I might not remember them.
Yeah, no. But anyway, I just want to issue that correction, and thank you to those people. Also, I mentioned on an Incident podcast the term Dr. Branhattan, to play on the Dr. Manhattan and Bran. I actually had someone that his name is Moral Midgetry on Reddit claims the first person on Reddit to use that term. John G and Meehan D both sent me the term on like hours apart on the same day. But then Moral Midgetry also mentioned that the Double Ds themselves have used that term. So this might be just like an obvious joke. Kind of like John's cave paintings.
Yeah.
Who takes credit for it?
I do. I'll take credit for all of it.
All right. So I think we're ready to talk about the episode now. Hey, before we get much further, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, every week we have the 3 main Game of Thrones podcast episodes released. Sunday night is the Instant Take. That's just our off-the-cuff impressions where we get details wrong, like whether gold got melted in a dragon-based conflagration. Tuesday, the main cast, where we got our shit together and we don't make, hopefully, as many mistakes. And Friday, we have the spoiler edition, which we talk about lore from the books, backstory, world building, crazy theories. We do not talk about production spoilers in the spoiler podcast. We consider those leaks out of bounds. So if you are a book reader or a show watcher that's got a sense of adventure, you're welcome to join us there. We also did a little fun one-off, maybe it's going to be slightly recurring as we go, Rick and Morty, Bald Move Television on baldmove.com, where we talked about our thoughts on the series as a whole and why you should be watching it, and our reaction to the first 2 new episodes in season 3. There was a lot of information for club members. We had a Empire Business on advertising, behind the scenes look at advertising on a podcast, and we also coming out this week. We'll have an Empire Business where we sat down with David Chin, who's one of the co-hosts of the Cast of Kings, one of our friendly competition, and we talked podcaster to podcaster about the business of podcasting. Those are exclusively for club members. We also released a Quip last week, Quit Your Pitchin', where we come up with fake TV shows and pitch each other what those TV shows would look like if they were real. And then a negative one, we had announced that we were going to do a first-run movies of Annabelle Creation, Origins or Creation?
Creation.
And we're not going to be able to do that because we have a scheduling conflict. We're not going to be able to get to the theaters to see it in time. So we're just want to announce that we're not going to be able to do that this week. But still, chock full of content at baldmove.com. Check it out.
Okay, we start off with the Lannister army transporting their booty back to King's Landing. Jaime pays Bronn with a giant bag of gold. Bronn's not satisfied because he's not getting a castle. So Jaime says, yeah, after this war, we'll get you a castle. Jaime tells Bronn to help the Tarly men gather the grain from all the farms out in the Reach. So many promises from the Lannisters that I don't feel are going to be upheld. I don't feel like they can, A, because I don't think they're going to win the war.
Because the world's ending, essentially.
Yeah. But B, I don't even know if they intend to keep those promises.
Well, and also Bron's making this interesting heroic turn. Because throughout the series, he's been a sellsword, emphasis on sell. And now he does... he loses his gold. He decides to fight anyway. He decides to stick around and help Jaime rather than fleeing. I don't know what to make of that. But I also thought there was an interesting tongue-in-cheek phrasing going on here as Jaime's admonishing Bronn, hey, man, the more you have, the more it weighs you down.
Yeah. With
him getting drowned in the river at the end of the episode. Right. I thought that was kind of clever. And then, regardless of our mistake with the loot train and where the gold went and all that, do you feel like by the end of the episode, what were those wagons full of? Are these grain shipments?
That's my best guess, yeah. And I'm unsure whether Dany knows that.
The other thing is, like, if even if it is, if you look at just strictly what we see on the screen, Dany burns half a dozen to a dozen wagons. Surely that's not all the grain in the Reach.
Yeah. They talk about stragglers, being super far behind and how they couldn't reinforce their lines
because it gotten too stretched out.
Right, because we got
I do think it's curious that the presumably heavily weighed down gold wagons were able to blister a trail of the King's Landing and be among the first to arrive.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly the most important thing,
right?
I think, for the Lannisters.
But it's also the hardest to move. Like, a wagon full of gold is going to be a lot heavier and more cumbersome than a wagon full of grain.
Yeah, but they don't have to gather up all the gold.
That's true.
It's already gathered.
You're right, because
so,
there was...
getting all the grain from the Reach is going to take a while.
And I think that's what some people have a problem with this episode. Like, this episode is only like 50 minutes long, but the time that is elapsing is a hell of a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
Like, it's several days as the crow flies to go from to go from Highgarden to King's Landing. When you're talking about men and wagons, and then you talk about the fact that you're having to collect harvest as you go. I mean, we could be talking about a matter of weeks that this episode elapses. I mean, right. Think about Jon starting a mining operation. Theon's been able. Of course, I guess Theon was kind of right off the coast. That's the thing. It's tough, but I'm really trying to give the show the benefit of the doubt because it's really, really good.
Yeah. So then we go to I'm going to call him an instrument because that's what he calls himself. From the Iron Bank.
His name's Nestor.
Nestor?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's one of the characters from
Nintendo Power.
The Nintendo Power show. Yeah.
You didn't see the Power Glove?
I did not.
Yeah,
see his
Valerian Power Glove he was wearing. That's the instrument right there.
Oh yeah. He's from the Iron Bank. Whoever he is, he's incredibly impressed with Cersei's ability to deliver the gold agreed upon in a single payment. He's also very eager to extend her some more credit, and she's eager to accept it. It seems like they're going to try and get the Golden Company involved from over in Essos. How strong is the Golden Company? Do you have any insight into that, or does the show give us any insight into that? Because right now they're pretty nebulous in my mind.
So the Golden Company is one of the more renowned of the sellsword companies in Essos. There's a bunch. We've heard of the Second Sons. That was the one that I believe Dario headed up.
Right.
The Golden Company was founded by one of the traitor bastard Targaryens from the Blackfire Rebellion.
Okay.
And he went over to Essos and founded it, and they're one of the ones that sellswords are famous for being fickle. Like if the side of might and wealth is on your side, that they'll be loyal to. But if the battle shifts and it looks like they might not get paid, then you're gonna. The Golden Company is kind of renowned for taking their contracts more serious and being more honorable about it.
Okay.
But that's kind of the history of them. There's more to say in the spoiler section, but we'll have to wait to get that to Friday. Also, instant correction: guy's name's Tycho Nestoris.
Well, he goes by Nestor.
Yeah,
He does.
and he still has a power glove. That's not that's
Yeah.
fact. That's fact. You can look it up. Wikipedia of Ice and Fire.
So bad.
Valerian power glove is a thing.
All right, let's move on to Littlefinger.
That's the thing. Like, I think that's this is the core breakdown from me not hearing besides his wah voice, not hearing about the gold, because they make it this big thing. Like, will the gold arrive? And if the gold arrives, then I'll do this. And it's like, why do that if you're going to, in the same episode, mention that the gold gets there?
I mean, they do it very, very quickly. Wasn't it in that first scene?
No. It's
later?
It's right before Drogon shows up and fucks shit up. He rides up
right.
and says, "Hey, my lord, BT Dubs, the gold's totally safe. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, no, they do like tease that it's going to be some big deal.
Yeah,
but then it's not.
yeah.
It's very strange.
And they make careful to show wagons are loaded with the gold in the beginning, so it's like there's a one sentence that tells you otherwise. The rest of the episode screamed like it was going to be a plot point. So
Yeah.
fuck me, I guess.
So Littlefinger gives Bran the knife that was used to try to kill him. He says also that he loved Catelyn and he would have done anything to protect her. Also, he'll do anything he can to help Bronn. He mentions that chaos that's happening all over the land at the moment, and Bran, as much as Bran has ever leaned in to say something ominous, Bran says chaos is a ladder, which shuts Littlefinger up.
Yeah.
Immediately, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Then Mira walks in and she says, "Hey, I'm leaving." He thanks her for her help, but she gets upset because he's an emotionless monster. I mean, what do you want? I said thank you.
Yeah,
But-
I mean that's
But yeah, she wanted something more. Like, it was very meaningful to her. I think it would have been meaningful to Bran, but he's the three-eyed raven now.
yeah. I wonder what, because you're right. Like, it's one of those things where words fail to describe the fact that like your brother died, Hodor died, Summer died.
Maybe a hug. But
You literally drug my ass leagues through this frozen forest, hounded by White Walkers, and but I don't. Bran just doesn't care. He's not Bran anymore, and Mira, I don't. I mean, I've always thought as a theory that Mira was going to be kind of his link to humanity or way to find his humanity, and maybe that'll come true later in the series. But for now, it seems like nope. Maybe Mira exists just to show us the depths to which he's lost, because maybe things are awkward between his family, and but him and Mira have been together since season 2, and they've been through a lot.
on the same journey together.
Exactly.
I guess she wanted to hear a "please don't go," like, or at least a hug. A hug would have done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an emotionless monster.
It's like I can barely be bothered to hug my two actual sisters.
Actually, I can't be bothered to hug Sansa, but I will give Arya a hug. I noticed that. That was surprising.
I compared and contrast. I think people are making the fact that 3/4 of his face is obscured by Maisie Williams.
No, there's a hand on her back.
Yeah,
There's a black leather glove on her back.
But it's not like a bear hug. He do that with like
no, he doesn't move for Sansa. It's
he was
almost
on
like
a wagon. It's the increased mobility afforded to him by Master Wojan's
right.
wheelchair allowed him. I just think that people are making a little bit much over the hug reactions.
I pointed out in jest, but
okay.
yeah, it's,
all right, because
I thought it was
I think
pretty
some
funny.
people are being serious. Like maybe he liked Arya more than Sansa, or maybe
A lot of people liked Arya more than Sansa at the beginning.
Most people.
Yeah.
In fact, I still think if someone's citing their favorite character, like the odds are Arya's going to be a couple notches over the rung of chaos and Sansa.
sure.
But then people are taking it to the extreme, like, oh, maybe Bran knows that Sansa is going to betray them. He's seen the future, and that. I'm like, come on, just settle down. Settle down. Don't think there's enough evidence that's been presented to jump to that conclusion.
The other big thing in this scene that I briefly mentioned is this "chaos is a ladder" line, which obviously calls back to a conversation season 3, I think, that
Right.
Varys and him had while he was
Right.
kind of ogling the throne.
Right.
He told Varys that chaos isn't a pit, chaos is a ladder.
Right.
And he's keen on climbing it.
Yeah, and it's also so the real question is if Bran knows everything. We talked about this on the spoiler edition a bit. Like, what does that even mean? Does that mean he's got access to all that information, but there's got to be something that, because we've got access to the internet. We have access to all of human knowledge. That doesn't mean we know everything. Mm-hmm. So if Bran is he now omniscient, or does he have the capability? He just has to ask the right questions and view the right visions, because it does seem he's got enough to blow Littlefinger wide open. In fact, maybe Littlefinger is the one that fucked up by handing him that knife that got Bran to thinking. But clearly, if Bran knows everything about Littlefinger, why wouldn't he just spill the beans?
There might be a grander plan in place.
Right.
I don't know.
Like as soon as he hands him a knife, it's like, Littlefinger did everything. Lock him up. He killed my dad. He sold off Sansa. He totally meant it the whole time. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why Littlefinger is free to walk the castle.
I don't know, but that was definitely an oh shit moment. Like,
Littlefinger
is in trouble.
It's rare that Littlefinger has oh shit moments, but it seems like this season he's destined to have a bunch, because it just it seems like every time you cut over to Littlefinger, it's like he's Jesse Pinkman at the White's family dinner, just gulping water and kind of reactions.
Right.
It's an unfamiliar look on Littlefinger's face.
This scene also does a lot to place the timeline. We see that Maester Welkin built that wheelchair, so we know it's at least 6 years in the future. There's no possible way Maester Welkin could have built it faster.
Yeah,
I don't have much faith in Maester Welkin.
If you look at medieval wheelchair building technology, you'll find that like Leonardo da Vinci took 7 years to construct the first one.
I just think it's Maester Welkin.
Even if the Venetian handicapped arsenal could crank out one a day, I mean, that was an assembly line thing. They used canals and pulleys and shit. Like it's super comfortable with the 6 year estimate there.
Also, you compare, the blacksmithing and what did he call it? What did Qyburn call?
Oh, God damn it.
The woodcraft, the architecting of this weapon.
Right.
If you compare, they had
everybody,
everybody working on that compared to this wheelchair where it's just Maester Welkin in his shop hammering together boards.
Yeah, he whittled it from a single large piece of weirwood.
Oh, that's cruel.
Yeah.
Bran needs those weirwoods
No, but I'm
alive.
thinking now he's connected all the time.
Right, yeah. See? It's like if you could take Cerebro and put it in a backpack.
That's what the three-eyed raven, he fucked up. He sat in the tree and the tree became him.
Right.
You gotta get that tree mobile, man. Put some wheels on that tree. Now you got something.
Nice. So Arya tries to get back in the gates at Winterfell, but they don't believe she is who she says she is. So she threatens them with punishment once Sansa finds out that they turned her away. So they let her in, but when the guards turn their back, Arya disappears, and the guards tell Sansa, who goes to the crypts for a reunion with Arya. Then they go to see Bran for a reunion. Neither reunion is entirely comfortable. I think Sansa's reunion with Arya is the most comfortable. And I actually like how, they're both pretty standoffish, both a little hesitant. They don't know how much each other have changed. But by the end of it, they seem to be back together mostly as sisters, as much as these two characters.
Yeah, and a lot of that awkwardness reminded me of like Lando Calrissian, Han Solo. Yeah. Like it's more of like, oh, do I have to call you lady now? And she's like, yes. And then they both kind of smile. And then it's got to be like, you wonder like, in the books, you have these insights into their minds where, like, Sansa's thinking back about how much she fought with Arya and how much she had disdain for Jon and how stupid that all seems now. And, like, there's similar thoughts with Arya. And so, like, I don't think you need all that POV to see, like, the fact that they used to pull each other's pigtails and tease each other about who's a lady and who's a tomboy. That's just... The fact that they're all back together is really nice, and they're bonding over the fact that their father's statue doesn't look exactly like old Ned.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool. What did you make of the line when she goes, "Oh my God, when Jon sees you, his heart will probably stop"?
I thought that was a wry little line. Like, his heart has stopped once,
right?
So
I don't, because that's I'm trying to figure out what the end game is going to look like, and there's so many different theories about who's going to kill who and who's going to betray, and Dany's going to do this and Jon's going to do that, and is there any room that Arya might have to kill Jon for some reason? either because of some kind of
Maybe. I mean, there was she wants to kill. Fuck, I don't remember their names. Thoros and
Barrack,
Barrack.
Melisandre.
Right, because of their Lord of the Light
they
shit.
stole Gendry.
Right, and I don't know at what point, like,
Or they gave him up the Melisandre for they broke the bro code. Arya didn't like it.
yeah, I don't know if Jon ever gets lumped in with that for like assisting Melisandre. I can't imagine that she would kill someone who she views as a brother and is that close to just because he helped Melisandre.
But now that he's resurrected, I mean they've really, you know, if you look at Barrack, he's lost a little bit of himself along the way. And Jon, they paid lip service to that when Jon is immediately resurrected, but that hasn't really paid off. Like Jon just seems like Jon with a few more scars.
Totally.
I wonder if there is going to be something about like the god of death is owed a sacrifice, and when all is said and done, like I'm not saying that Arya is going to be happy about it, but I wonder if this will be some kind of like Jon. Maybe Jon can never die. Maybe he's looking for the gift of death, because that's the thing. Like the faceless men assassinate for profit, but they also give the gift freely for whoever wants it.
Right.
I wonder if there's a little bit of foreshadowing there. And that would be
Man.
that'd be a tough moment. Like Jon, like after all is said and done, is like I just want to rest, and the only way I can rest is to die. Would you kill me, Arya?
I mean, even if we're talking Arya being a 90-year-old woman, that still seems like a really short time to say, you know, I've had enough life.
I'm saying like as soon as the war's over, like, you know, he's been through so much, and this being brought back to life puts a lot of mileage on you. I don't know, something. So maybe that's my looking way too into it of the week.
I do have questions about how long Arya is going to stick around. You know, she's home, and it feels good in the moment, but I don't think Arya is going to be satisfied just staying here. I'm not even sure she'll stick around to see Jon, because Jon's still got a ways to go before he comes back.
Oh yeah, first of all,
like, he's got to mine all that dragon.
He's got it. He's also got to get the deal from Missandei where he can just leave anytime he wants.
Right, he's got to get his boat back.
Right. I don't know. I don't know, because the other thing is, does Arya go to King's Landing to assassinate Cersei, or does she help her family, or does she help her family by going to King's Landing and assassinating Cersei?
I like that one. Yeah, take Littlefinger's face, head to King's Landing.
I mean, what the good guys really need is some intelligence, some
Yeah.
military intelligence, and having a spy that can shapeshift would be almost more valuable than having an assassin that can shapeshift.
Yeah.
Like, they need little birds, and Arya would be the biggest little bird of all time.
She would. I do like how they kind of just casually drop oh, by the way, I have a list of people that I'm going to kill. And Sansa's reaction to that is really good. She kind of doesn't take it seriously. And then Arya half laughs about it because she knows how weird it is. But
why do you think Bran gives Arya the dagger?
I don't know. I'm not sure where Bran is coming from at this point.
Because
he's playing the chess game so deep that I don't know I can follow him.
He's playing 64-dimensional chess.
Yeah.
He's Tesseract chess.
Or he's not playing it at all. I really don't know.
Yeah, I also wonder, because when he gave it up, I'm like, man, dude, you are a target of the White Walkers. If anything, you know, with your legs not being of use, you could use like a personal sidearm that is really good at killing White Walkers.
Right.
But giving it to Arya is interesting because, you know, Valyrian steel dagger, like, whoop-de shit. Like, okay, you have a peerless dagger, great. In a world of like, I wouldn't take my chances of a Valyrian steel dagger versus just your shit iron Arak from a Dothraki. It almost the only reason the Valyrian part would be interesting is if she gets to use it against White Walkers.
Okay.
So she's going to steal a White Walker. She's going to put on the puckered butthole face of a White Walker, sneak up to the Night's King. She's going to exchange some gloating greetings, and then just right in the middle of his chest.
I don't know what she's going to do with that, but
it's significant.
He intentionally gives it to her,
right,
for whatever reason.
It's significant, and I don't know why it's significant. Because it's significant because, like, in a lot of the pre-season production, like, Arya was prominently wearing it on her waist. In the scrolls and the books that Sam was pouring through in the Citadel, it was prominently shown in artwork.
Yeah,
there's something special about this, and I don't. Some people were speculating about, like, you know, well, who do we know of the owners, and is that part of the riddle? I think that we moved beyond that. Like, who or what caused the War of the Five Kings? You other than, I guess, Littlefinger's complicity in it, I don't know that it's
Right.
important. Like, was it
Right.
Joffrey? Was it Tyrion? Was it somebody else? Who cares? But
Yeah,
now
and for
Arya's
them to
got
bring it back up this close to the end of the series says that it's going to be important to somebody. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. It could be important to Littlefinger in that it could cause his death.
Yes, that would be very important to him.
Yeah. So Missandei tells,
yeah.
Brienne sees the Stark girls happy together, and she's happy. And then Pod tells her she did a good job. This is a good little moment for them. I liked it.
It is, and Brienne allows herself to be called a lady, which is some progress on her character front, and a thawing between her relationship with Pod and Brienne. And what's interesting is Littlefinger. The only time he looked smug in this whole episode was when he was observing this particular reaction.
Yeah.
Like, does he think he can somehow manipulate Brienne? Because I think he's
don't
barking
know.
up the wrong super tall lady tree
Absolutely.
if he's going to come at her.
Yeah, I don't know what his game is either, but
Because he looks
I'm
somewhere
on-
between flop sweat and shitting his pants throughout most of this episode. But there is the one
Yeah.
time he looks down and is like, "Oh, an angle I can exploit."
maybe he's going to exploit Pod.
Ah,
Pod's a little more naive.
Pod
right?
is a fucking turnip head.
I don't know what good could come of that
Yeah.
for Littlefinger, but
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I should have gave the blade to Pod
yeah.
for
Why?
reasons." I don't know.
All right, Missandei tells Dany that the Unsullied haven't sent word yet, and implies that she fucked Grey Worm.
Yeah.
Or fucked
Can't call
as
Grey
much
Worm.
as
He's
they
sullied.
can.
He's sullied from hell to back now.
Sure is.
All kinds of sullied.
Then Jon asks Dany to join him in the caves before they start hacking it to bits. And he shows her the dragon glass and some cave drawings that the children of First Men made of the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this before we talk too much about it: is Jon still sleeping on the beach? Because he comes out of nowhere. He's just on the beach with nobody else there.
I think he came from the caves, right? The caves are adjacent to the beach.
So he's sleeping in the caves.
He's sleeping in the caves. Yep, down by the river
Okay.
in a van.
What do you want to say in all seriousness about this scene?
Amelia and Kit look really good by torchlight.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
Amelia's not my type, but holy shit, was she good looking down in this cave.
I don't know if that's like digital because I know like in the weirwood tree or by the weirwood tree in Winterfell, like all of those kids look like they've had something digital done to them. Like their eyes are all
Unspeakable.
super blue, and
yeah.
all the colors are like really, really saturated.
I think that's
of their
what
hair and
yeah.
their eyes and the leaves.
They're definitely boosting the cool colors in Winterfell, which brings
Yeah.
out the blue in their eyes.
It looks really cool. It makes all of them have almost like a glow to them.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, like there might be just a little bit of artistry here, comparing the this to in as much as this is a song of ice and fire, you show the ice kids and then the fire kids, and John's cool in every hood because he's half Targaryen, half Stark. I thought it was cool. I thought that the cave paintings were just I don't know. It feels a little shortcutty to me, but the fact that the characters took them so seriously and the fact that I think that even if you're skeptical, you got to at least give them credit for the fact that they've essentially had this in the works since the very first scene of the very first episode.
Yeah.
With these patterns at the White Walkers and the fact that they, they've shown the relationship to them between them now, and now we're getting these other hints, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder: is this a warning from the children and the First Men who were
Yeah.
in this cave together? Are the spirals like a warning to us, or are they significant to the children? Or
Yeah,
what does the spiral mean exactly? It's clear that the White Walkers have some kind of link to the children, right, and their culture, I guess, because we see that they can do things like draw spirals
Sure.
in bodies, but to what end? Like how far down the path of understanding, I guess, do they go?
If they can decipher these hieroglyphics, it'll be an insight into their gloat-based language. Maybe John can communicate by gloating.
I think Davos should get in there with his
Yeah.
newfound reading skills and see if he can figure it out.
Yeah. You're not so up the Westerosi language ass. You're a newcomer, so you won't, your mind won't be calcified. You're open to spirals and triangles with lines drawn through them.
Is it possible that we could see Sam make a connection here with these spirals and
Could
this
be.
cave and like understand more about what it means and kind of break the
it-
cryptography of the walkers?
I mean, there's the mystery of what is all, because a lot, one of the popular things to discuss is like all those rotted scrolls are actually, it's a quasi punishment to transcribe them. Maybe those are particularly rotten scrolls that would be of use. Like maybe there's a pictograph of the language of the children of men, or children of the forest rather. That would be interesting. So my question to you is, Danny agrees to fight for him right now if he bends the knee, and he refuses. Why doesn't he refuse?
Why does he refuse?
Subset of that question, it seems obvious to the point of craziness that the answer here is a marriage alliance. The whole reason she dumped Dario Nyquilis's ass on the shores of Essos is because she knew coming here one of the big bargaining chips she'd have is the keys to her vagina. Why doesn't she just toss those at John, and then everything's fine? Like, okay, you'll be my king consort, I'll be your queen whatever. We're in it to win it, the whole continent. We're all bound together, north and south. Why hasn't someone, Tyrion, Varys, suggested this?
Well, I don't think you make that your first offer. I think bending the knee is probably preferable because then you've still got that bargaining chip. So maybe she's still on that angle.
But she's worked this bend the knee 3 different times. And then the other thing is like it kind of, there's symbolic, bending the knee, that's the traditional way to propose marriage.
Okay, sure.
So fucking that's just get this done. I mean, that's the thing. Like, why would you mention that you have to come over to Westeros with your prospects wide open because that's politically useful, and then you lose all your allies, none of those allies of which you could marry anyway. I mean, I'm not saying that Danny couldn't marry the Sand Snakes or Lady Olenna. That would be hilarious, but the marriage prospects not as great maybe. To marry into a bastard rebel family, and a 90-year-old woman, and the Greyjoys. Maybe she could marry. Maybe she could marry Yara.
No, I think a marriage between Olenna and Danny would be pretty fucking hilarious. Now we know it can't happen, but man, that would have been great.
It just seems like that's this
it's
is
just not your first offer, right? I know he's turned her down several times, but she's still trying.
It's not your first offer, but I feel like it's threatening to be obtuse. The fact that if this is, the fact that Danny is so desperate and so is Jon, that if someone doesn't mention it by next episode, I'd say I'd tear out my hair, except it's all gone. I'll start chunks of my beard are going to be threatened.
I feel like less time has passed on that island than has passed everywhere else.
What is it like? Fucking
No.
Just the island that King Arthur went as Avalon, like literally. Like
there's a time dilation happening everywhere else.
It's the Dragonstone. It's more dense. The gravitational forces are more extreme.
But you know what I mean? Like in storytelling terms, I think a lot more time is passing with like the High Garden stuff and the Sand Snakes being killed and like all that. Then it feels like it's been a few days maybe. Up on Dragonstone to where Jon started mining. Or hasn't even started mining, but has talked about, like, he's scoped it out.
All right, so the other part of the question is, why won't he just bend the knee? Because, like, a lot of people emailed us, and I'll probably give credit to someone in the feedback section, but it's come up, so dry pie, everybody. Why this is the statement that she makes about, like, why wouldn't you save your people if only your pride's in the way is almost identical to his effort to appeal to Mance Rayder.
And obviously Mance didn't do it either. Like,
right.
That's the point. Jon, he couldn't just bend the knee and say, follow Jon, because those people wouldn't have accepted that.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with the exact same situation here. And Jon understands that now. He didn't at the time that he was talking to Mance, but he does now.
I wonder why he doesn't say that, because I guess it wouldn't mean anything to Danny.
It wouldn't, It's like Mance saying to Jon, if you don't understand that, then I can't explain it to you.
Yeah. Because I think he's right. If he just bends the knee... I don't know. But again, then the next step is like, it's almost like it feels like a rom-com where it's like oh, what is the solution here? What is when we're all like the solution is to do this? And
I don't know. I think it's a tough sell. If Jon doesn't come back with like dragons or armies,
Right.
or at least the dragon glass, prepared to fight the war that the North is concerned about, I think
Right.
the North might turn on him because he's already. Let's not forget he's already doing a thing that the North
Oh, no,
very
totally.
strongly
Totally.
disagrees with
Totally.
by even meeting with Danny.
Right,
If he
right.
comes back and says, "Yo, we got married," I don't know that they follow that even.
I mean,
It's a tough sell.
yeah, it's like, do things in Westeros, do things like guest right and marriage alliances still mean anything? Because
Right.
if they do, then I think that's the thing that would make them sit up and be like, oh, this is a serious thing. Like John coming back with a ship's hold full of dragon glass would be one measure of good faith, but he comes back with, like, look, she gave me all this dragon glass, and we have a marriage alliance now.
But
So if
we've got to
we-
fight this southern battle before we go fight the White
but
Walkers.
that's the thing. Like, I think that's the thing. Like,
People would
Danny,
turn on him.
Danny is offering to fight for him, and if like they got married, then like let Danny. You got no holding on Westeros right now. All of your allies are already destroyed that you could protect. There's no one there. There's no there to save. So come up with me north. If I'm right, we'll save the whole realm, and then with our combined might, we'll push south and defeat the Lannisters. Because they're not I don't know. It's tough. It's a little frustrating because I wish someone I considered smart in universe would suggest this so they can debate the merits on the show, because it seems like a very obvious natural thing that no one is thinking about.
So I bring up the time dilation thing, the storytelling time dilation, because I think that's where they're going. I think things are just progressing more slowly there than elsewhere in the realm.
Okay.
And I think Davos is going to be the one to bring it up.
Okay.
I mean, Davos is already hinting at it, right? Like, oh, I seen you looking at her heart.
Yes.
Like, he knows. And he is also a smart person, and he's also a very good diplomat. So I think he's probably going to say it next episode, if not
Right.
sooner, if not
Right.
before then. There's going to be a mini featurette on HBOGo.com where Davos just says, "Hey, John, you should
Right.
propose a marriage alliance."
If you won't, I will.
I kind of get the feeling that Davos is a little attracted to Miss Sandy.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, he might just be being cordial and
like
friendly.
The thing. Like, when
but
you're 60 years old, do you stop admiring the beauty of young women?
Oh, of course
I think
not.
you can not. I think
Yeah.
you can not be creepy about it, and you can recognize that it's not in anyone's best interest. But like, if I'm Davo, like, he's surrounded by beautiful women, and also,
And I don't think he's being creepy.
I think he's also trying, like, maybe he's also playing the role of John's wingman, because John is so fucking sexually repressed.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
The last person.
all of his brothers are going to the Moles Town, aka Pound Town, and having a ball, and he can't even,
He's having to hide in a cave to do it.
Right. It's like, I feel like Davos needs to corrupt him a little bit.
Yeah,
Come on.
I'm with you. So Tyrion and Varys meet Dany when she emerges from the cave to tell her about the Casterly Rock blunder. She's pissed, and she wants to take the dragons to go melt some faces, but everyone, including Jon, advises against it.
Yeah.
Man,
Boy, she really went after Tyrion. And I think
Rightfully
she's got a point too, because later in the episode, it bothers him to see, like, and I don't understand why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Tyrion himself even realizes in this scene that maybe that's on his mind.
Right.
He might be deluding himself into thinking, I don't care about my family at all.
Right. Or they got what's coming to him.
Yeah.
But then when you see what's coming to him,
Right. It's way worse than he imagined.
his eyes were too big for his stomach.
Yeah. Dany definitely seems to be a little bit more on the Jon train here. She's asking him what he would do.
I think it helps that he's giving, like, this is wise counsel.
It is.
Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to dispute the fact that what he's saying, that
Yep.
your mystique is built upon the fact that you're different. Well, if you
Mm-hmm.
just go and shed innocent blood willy-nilly just because it's expedient, then you're not different.
Yeah.
And she knows that.
And I think it goes some of the way to trying to explain to Dany also why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
Because, he can't just go there and bend the knee to her, because the Northerners would view him as more of the same Southern bullshit, right? Like, this bending of the knee and this
Right.
giving power to other people. No, we want freedom. And that's not how you get it, by bending the knee.
Right.
Then we see Arya teaching Brienne. Arya sees Brienne teaching Pod how to fight, so she steps in.
How to get his ass kicked.
Yeah,
He's getting really good at getting his ass handed to him. Man, he's a black belt and getting his ass handed to him.
This is gonna be one of those things where he can take any punch, any sword blow, he can just withstand it.
Right.
Because he's so
It's like,
callous.
how you like my balls to your knee style.
Right.
It's very, very Kung Pao, this scene.
She steps in because she wants to train with Brienne, who she views as the most fearsome warrior.
Beat the Hound.
Yeah. Brienne's surprised by how well she fights, and I think they fight each other to a standstill here. I don't know how you feel
on
about that
subsequent
now.
watches, I do think that it's very obvious that Brienne is holding back.
At the beginning,
Because,
yeah.
I mean, what would you think if Brienne just fucking, just little girl challenges to a fight and she just, fucks her up?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
one thing with Pod.
Yeah, say hello to your mother when you get to the seven hells, Tell her I fulfilled my oath. Woo, Freebird. It's like whatever, she does whatever. Yeah.
And
so,
I'm thinking like some of these sword blows that Brienne is willing to deal would cut her in half regardless of whether this is a
when
training
Arya,
sword or not.
when Arya fake hamstrings her and then like she goes to the knee and then immediately slashes, yeah, Arya would have been in some real hurting.
Yeah,
if
that's
she
a big
hadn't rolled
sword.
out of her way.
Yeah, and then afterward, Arya stares up at Littlefinger, who was watching from a balcony. Sansa was also watching from the balcony. She seems to be not. I don't know how she's feeling about what her sister can do here, but she realizes how dangerous of a person Arya
Yeah,
is.
there's a lot of I don't want to get too much in, but there's a lot of feedback discussing like what is Sansa freaking out about, or what is she worrying about.
This was such a great
Littlefinger's
scene,
obviously
man.
worried because he's like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, these Stark. I got a fucking omniscient one. I got a fucking omnipotent one. I don't know what Sansa's omni about, but like that's she's like Sansa's the weakest one, but she's the one that's most familiar with my bullshit. So I got nothing. I got no angle to work here, man.
Yeah, no, and I mean just the idea of seeing Arya fight Brienne was such. I mean, personally, as a fan, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It was a moment I didn't really know I was waiting for, and I didn't expect to get. But
because we haven't seen her fight
found
in a
out that I wanted it.
we haven't seen her fight in a long time.
We haven't. No,
I mean, we've seen her do
the waif is like the last time she fought, right?
But not that was like
With the sticks,
and it was more like trickery and faceless man stuff. It wasn't just like I'm going to beat you because I'm stronger and I'm better. I enjoyed it, and it also showed us how much she's powered up since the last time she scuffled. Like she like you said, fights Brienne to a standstill.
Yeah, and then the line.
Who do you think actually wins in an all-out fight?
Man, that's a good question.
I think
I'm still going to go with Brienne. I think Brienne's got the size advantage, and you see when she unleashes I don't know. They both kind of hold back a little at the beginning.
I don't think that she is capable of fighting truly dirty.
I mean, she kicks Arya in the chest.
She
it's
does.
Not
she
super
gives her
dirty.
the
It's
Gina
just
Carano memorial straight kick of doom.
Yeah. Also, she can't do the face thing. So
that's the thing. Like Arya's got
Arya
magic.
could come up as Podrick.
I think the Hound cleans Brienne's clock if he was healthy.
Yeah.
And as it is, it was a near run thing. I think Brienne's problem is that she's tied to the chivalrous conduct stuff.
Yeah.
She wouldn't think to do the things that Arya was been trained to do.
And then that line from Arya when I think it's Brienne asks her, "Who taught you how to do that?"
No one,
and she says, "No one." That was perfect.
Right.
Boom. Then we go over to Davos teaching Jon about teasing Jon, about liking Dany. And Jon says, "Hey, I don't have time for that. I've got other concerns." Missandei then interrogates Jon about his last name.
Oh, come on, Jon. You got 30 seconds.
I mean, that's about all they give it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking Jon, like how much experience he's had. He gets with Dany. It's not going to be a 10-round bout.
No, probably not. Missandei interrogates Jon about his last name and doesn't understand the concept of a bastard because they don't have marriage in Narth, where she comes from. She tells Jon and Davos her background and explains to Jon that Dany's exactly the same as him, essentially. And then they see a Greyjoy ship sailing up.
Like I said, a lot of support here for my in-game theory of Dany instituting some kind of constitutional monarchy or democracy, because essentially that's what Missandei argues, is she's the people's leader. And I also like to call back to Stannis, where Jon's like, we got 10,000 men or less, and Davos corrects him to fewer.
Yeah,
I thought that's great.
That
And
was
the fact
great.
he's like, and this is King Snow, or that doesn't sound right, King John. I think it would be King, like, it wasn't King Lannister. It's
No,
King
it's always-
Joffrey, King
yep.
Robert. Yes, it'd be King John. Like, you don't have to worry about the fucking bastard shit.
Probably the 19th or something. I don't
Also,
know.
I think it's time for John, like, this. I'm surprised they haven't done this, but, like, when a bastard is legitimized, and, you know, obviously as a king, he can self-legitimize, it's about time for him to take his own last name, his own house name, and his own house banner.
But what is that? Do you want him to do it before he learns he's a Targaryen as well?
Yeah, because then he's the Icefire. That's there. He's Targaryen. He's Icefire Targaryen. Boom.
John Icefire.
Like the
There you go.
Blackfires, only cooler. I mean, he's already got the sigil because I believe they're going with the white on. I can't remember which one is. If the Starks is White Wolf on a gray field and he's the Gray Wolf on the white field, or
Right.
no, it's he's the gray. He's the White Wolf on a gray field because that also matches Ghost, or at least in the books.
Oh.
I haven't looked to see
I think
if
that
those
would be-
banners are consistent.
I think that would be the reverse of the Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then he needs to come up with a house name because they can't like be Snow. I mean, I
No.
guess they could. That'd be funny. Just
Yeah.
right.
Then every bastard
And
across the kingdom
royally
have a
declare,
claim
like
to the throne.
everyone has to. All bastards must change their name. It can't be Snow no more.
Oh, Jesus.
Has to be
Seems like
Frost.
clusterfuck.
Has to be Frost or Snowflake maybe.
Chill.
Chill. There you go.
So I do like how Miss Andy points out, without really trying, I don't think she sets out to do this, but she essentially outlines the point that he and Danny are the same. You know, people follow them not
Yeah.
because of their name or whatever, but because of the deeds they've done.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing for John to realize about Danny, as well as vice versa. And I just don't think like Danny considers that from John's side, and John doesn't consider that from her side. Because like, if she did, she would say, "What would my people say if I bent the knee to John?" Right? They wouldn't have any of that. The Dothraki are not going to follow John. John's not the person who birthed the dragons and came out of the fire and.
Yeah, no. That's the thing. Like I can. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Danny cannot bend the knee to John. It would be
Yeah.
super stupid.
And I think the same applies to John bending the knee to her.
Well, I don't think it's as strong because, like, yes, John came back from the dead. So did she, and she has 3 dragons.
Right,
like,
but as far
John
as their
is the
people
beggar
are
in this
concerned,
relationship.
as far as their people are concerned, though,
No, I agree.
like, I don't think either of those other sides would follow the other.
I agree.
King or queen.
Right. I'm saying like John might think about it for a hot minute. Danny just is like, why in the hell? I have all of the trump cards.
Yeah. Then we go see that ship, that Greyjoy ship that lands on the coast there, and Theon is, I'll say, reunited with John. John tells Theon the only reason he doesn't kill him right now is because of what he did for Sansa. Theon says he's here to ask Danny to help him get Yara back, and Davos says, "Hey, the queen's gone."
Yeah, and also, Jesus Christ, do I want to see a plot where they go rescue? I don't. I mean,
No, I don't.
I have such Greyjoy antipathy. The fact that I
Yeah.
might have to sacrifice 30 minutes of my valuable last bit of Game of Thrones for some kind of plot where they go and save Yara and Alaria, like, I could not care less.
Now do it yourself, Theon.
Yeah,
if
no
you want
shit.
it done, get
Here's
it done.
your redemption arc.
Yeah.
Handpick your own Greyjoy fleet and go get it done. Go do what your
Yep.
sister did, and maybe she will do better than cowering in a cage in response.
Right.
I'm so fucking sick of this Greyjoy shit and this Theon stuff. Over it.
Do you have any insight into the way that Euron works? Does he leave a single ship afloat in order to like tell his tales?
The
or
Dread
something?
Pirate Roberts? No.
Yeah,
I
essentially.
don't have any insight into Euron.
No. Okay.
Again, my Greyjoy antipathy. Until last season, I was kind of like, oh, cool. The Double Ds are just going to consolidate the Greyjoys, which means I
Right.
don't have to care about them. And
That's
now I
nice.
have to fucking care about them.
Yeah.
The greatest crime that the Double Ds have ever committed, forcing me to care about the Greyjoys.
So then we get to the final battle, the loot train scene. Randall Tarley says the gold has made it to King's Landing. There are some stragglers in the army, but apparently they only have grain. They're not important. He wants to whip them. Jaime says warn him first. Dickon remarks about how bad he feels for the men they slaughtered at Highgarden. I guess trying to make this character into somebody we care about. Not really. I still don't care about him after this.
He's getting
he's short-lived.
there, though.
He's going to
getting
be a
there.
short-lived character. He's not important.
Does he survive this battle? I wonder if him and Tarly survived this battle. Because
Potentially.
if they don't, I'm still struggling with what the point of Sam stealing his ancestral sword was.
Right.
If Tarly dies in this battle, it'll be especially like, what?
Especially if both of them die.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be some kind of importance for that, because otherwise it's just a cheeky Sam moment, and I'm hoping that there's something more to it than that. I don't know. I like Dickon. Dickon's pretty cool.
I like when Bronn
Anything
laughs
that
about
makes
his
Bronn
name.
laugh that hard is okay in my book.
Yeah. Then they hear noise from the hills, and they form up their battle line, and the Dothraki ride over the hill. They're reinforced by Dany riding Drogon. They fuck up the Lannister troops.
Right.
They destroy the loot train. In the chaos, Bronn scores a scorpion hit on Drogon, which brings him to the ground. Jaime tries to charge Dany and nearly gets burned alive by Dragonfire, but Bronn, I think it's implied, knocks him into the river, and he sinks into it. The end. We kind of leave Jaime underwater and Bronn, or whoever saved him, underwater. Who do you think saved him?
I think I think in the editing and the camera work leading up to this, it's obvious that Bronn's going for it, to the extent that if it turns out it's Dickon, that would be dumb. And as you pointed out, we had a little pre-podcast discussion. Dickon is wearing as heavy armor as Jaime is, where Bronn famously is not armored.
Right.
Like, that's his thing. So unless Bronn jumps in and saves them both, it makes more sense for Bronn to be able to save Jaime where he couldn't save himself.
Right.
Although I wonder, like people are always making it seem like full plate armor is just this encumbrance. Like, oh, if you're knocked off your horse, there's a lot of, I think there's a school of modern thought that the plate armor knights were completely helpless if they got knocked off their horse or whatever. And reenactors seems like, yes, it seems like if someone says, oh, I'm going to strap 50, 60 pounds to you, but by the time it's distributed all over your body, it's not that big a deal. I don't know.
I don't know in the water.
That seems like a big thing to try to swim with, especially if you're missing a hand, or that hand weighs as much as a bowling ball.
Yeah.
I don't know, because all these enactors, I've seen videos on YouTube of them doing cartwheels and handstands in full plate armor. I want to see one swim in a length of an Olympic swimming pool, in plate armor. Come on,
that sounds really hard.
I bet it would be, but I think it's doable. Even if is the armor so hard to remove that you can't get the bigger parts of it off before you drown?
I don't know.
If you're
one-handed,
you're trying to save, that's true. One-handed.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough. I think Jaime's in a bad situation. You don't think he's dead though, right? Do you think this is how Jaime dies?
I think that I don't believe that this show does much off screen. They never have before. Maybe there's some notable exceptions. But no, I mean,
everybody argued about how Stannis is not dead because we didn't see his head come off.
Right. But so in my opinion, they showed his death. It's just they didn't show his head rolling off of his body, which was an odd moment. But I just feel like that him drowning and just we never see Jaime again, we see his body washed up, would feel anticlimactic in a way that I just don't think they're going for.
And it's silly to have someone try to save him and it not work.
Yeah, why not?
Is Bronn going to die? Bronn's not in the armor. Bronn can still get up.
Now, I will say that I think it's kind of bullshit that Bronn doesn't die. Because even when I was watching the first time, I'm like...
With the scorpion...
Yeah, because here's the thing. Bronn's whole arc is that he's a sellsword, and that's what makes him a survivor. And then in this episode, he consciously abandons that, even though it's against his better judgment. I thought it would be dramatically appropriate and bring back some of the fear in this show to have Bronn, a character that's very popular, that's very well liked, die, doing something against his better nature.
I don't disagree with that. Then again, I don't know what they have planned for Bronn.
No, I think Jaime floating to the bottom of the Blackwater schmuck bait. It's one of those things where no one believes he's going to die, but they're doing it just as a bullshit cliffhanger.
Yeah, and I've always said, at the end of season, this would bother me.
Right.
In the middle of a season, cliffhangers are fine.
If you're going to do bullshit cliffhangers mid-season, where it's going to immediately be answered next week, is the way to do it. And that's not invalid, because this is a moment where Jaime's life could be flashing before his eyes. This is I've mentioned I think it's odd that he's still true blue to Cersei. Like, this is a transformative event. The fact that, he has no business being out there. He should have taken Bronn's advice and fled in the first moments because he's the commander. He's no longer the fighter. But I will say that, like, I thought Drogon might die. There's a couple things.
Did too.
So the show still got me on the edge of my seat because I thought Drogon might die. I thought that Dany might get injured. I thought that Bronn might actually die. I thought Dickon might die. I didn't think Jaime would die.
Yeah.
But that's why it's more the shame that Bronn actually didn't, because then, wow.
Yeah, Jaime and Dany were the only two that I was certain wouldn't die in this confrontation.
It seems like Dany would be smart to be wearing a significant suit of armor.
At least something
like
that can block arrows, because you saw how Drogon was diverted
it's
with
so
that
dumb,
volley of arrows.
Her up there on her fancy pantsuit with a cape.
Yeah.
Like, get a helmet, get a heavy steel. Like, because Drogon's apparently arrow proof, but your ass isn't.
Right. And when there are 700 arrows in the air,
she could be wearing 200 pounds of armor, and Drogon would not even notice.
Yeah.
And to them, there's also, why not armor Drogon? Like, could you not get like a 1-inch thick iron breastplate on me? I mean, I don't know, because it seems like dragons are already just on the verge of being too heavy to fly.
You try and put a sweater on a dragon, it's going to rebel.
Yeah.
It's going to Dracarys that thing to dust.
Or just not be able to take off. So, like, I get it. But the other thing I wanted to mention is lots and lots of people on the internet were drawing parallels between Drogon and Drogo. Drogo took a superficial wound in his shoulder that later festered and ended up killing him. Drogon, his namesake, takes apparently a superficial wound in his shoulder. Do you think that will be that might be fatal?
No.
No,
I don't think that was enough to kill a dragon.
It's weird because now that Dany knows these scorpions exist, I feel like I'm kind of surprised that the first time we saw it didn't result in the death of a dragon, because this is the time where Dany thinks that her dragons are essentially invincible. Now she knows they're not.
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird to.
And she knows the secret weapon, right?
Right.
That's going to potentially take one down. Like, I feel like
if only she had a shape-shifting assassin that could go behind enemies' lines and, like, disable every one of those things on the walls of King's Landing.
Yeah.
I just feel like the fact that Bronn, like the cat is out of the bag, is going to somehow neuter that weapon.
Yeah, it's a huge problem for Qyburn's
Yeah.
New weapon, new toy.
Why didn't Dany bring all of her dragons? Because we've seen in the previous season that they, like, she doesn't have a rider for all of them, but they kind of are content to go wrong and wreck shit.
Yeah, you look at the battle at Marine, in as much as it was a battle, where the dragons just roasted all the slaver ships.
Yeah.
They didn't all have to have riders.
I wonder if this is her trying to be, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's too bad she wasn't, she flew perpendicular to the Lannister line instead of parallel to it. But I feel like she was not trying to just cause wanton loss of life. Like, she could have roasted every man alive in there. Instead, she opened up a hole in the line for a Dothraki to exploit, and then she roasted the supply train itself.
Right.
But then again, she also got interrupted mid-rampage when Drogon could no longer fly. Jesus Christ, that dude's big, too.
Yeah, Drogon
that
got
scene
huge.
of him on the ground with her still, I was like, the scale, like how much bigger he's been since the Fighting Pits of Marine is just amazing.
No, it's awesome. And I thought, there was that notoriously bad CG scene of Dany riding.
Yeah, the rubber Drogon.
Right, on the rubber Drogon. This time, it looked impeccable.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. The special effects, the stunts, everything here came together so perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, this episode looked like it cost $1 million, probably did, and money well spent. And
for sure.
To the extent that we had a fairly, I want to say it's sedate, except for we murdered all the Freys. We got a really awesome naval battle. It's not like there's nothing, but like if we had to get the first 3 episodes a little bit slow moving so we could get to this and the next few episodes, it's all going to be like this, then watch out, because this costs a lot of. It's the biggest, most ambitious thing they've ever done, and they pulled it off just great. By the way, the director of this episode, did you see? He's directed like 40 Always Sunny episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the Devil D's are finding the inroads there, huh?
They are, and I think it's actually, I mean, because he's got some other, I forget all the director's credit. He's got, I don't think he's got anything this big and blockbuster, and I think it's kind of amazing that you can just step up to the plate and knock it out of the park like this.
Yeah.
Because
the
it wasn't just
coordination that
it's
requires.
not like this was all done in a green screen and you can just hand it over to the effects guys. Like they set men on fire.
Yeah.
This is manifestly a real location that they did a lot of compositing.
Set dressing alone.
Yes.
With all the burnt horses and
Yes.
people, and they had to dye everything black and different stages of burnt.
Yes.
Like,
and that's expensive too, because like you have to, if you fuck up a shot and you've already scorched the field.
yeah.
So
What are you gonna do?
Hats off. Hats off.
The other interesting thing that I think is accomplished by only having Dany ride one dragon in. Well, I think everybody knows she has 3 dragons.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So I was going to say she has the element of surprise a little bit, but she doesn't.
Nah.
Everybody knows about her dragons.
Yeah.
I really don't know why she doesn't bring all 3 in here. But
What did you think about Tyrion? I thought that added a lot to, because Tyrion was articulating the things I was thinking. Like, Jesus Christ, Jamie, you're really going to charge a fully grown dragon with one hand?
yeah, no, it's a ridiculous thing to do, and it harkens back to what Robert Baratheon was talking about with the rebellion, where some kid charged him right on the battlefield, and he thought he was going to.
And it was a Tarly. It was a Tarly too,
right? And thought he was going to win the war with a single blow of the sword. That's what Jaime's doing here.
Right.
He thinks he's going to end this war, and I don't know. Like, what do you think happens if he kills Dany here? Do you think the war ends, or do you think Tyrion and Varys take over, and Missandei, and
then what do you do?
They
to
continue the
Dothraki?
mission?
And also, there's another big question about seeing the Dothraki and how kind of ruthless they are. That's a big question of how they're going to integrate them into Westerosi life.
yeah,
Like, they would be most happy on the Reach and Door, but like, can you imagine being the neighbors of the Dothraki, where their culture is essentially to just take whatever? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to engage in cultural relativism, but that's a huge task to integrate 100,000 Dothraki into this other culture where they're diametrically opposed. I don't know. It's not the first time it's happened in Westeros. I mean, Ask the Children of the Forest and the First Men.
right. Ask him how well it went for him. Though.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's like, I don't think that at the end state of the Game of Thrones everything's going to be perfect, and the Dothraki trying to integrate them and is going to be one of those imperfect things.
And we talked a little bit about what must be in those carts and those wagons at this point.
Right.
They're not all scorpions, so they've
Right.
got to have something else in them. Grain potentially is the most likely thing.
And the fact that I don't like that though, because Dany burning up all that grain is
It's a problem.
Is terrible. Yeah,
It's a problem
bad
for the
look.
realm, and not just for King's Landing.
Especially, because they mentioned in Winterfell, like Sansa's grousing about people not wanting to contribute grain to Winterfell. Like food is going to be a big thing in the war ahead.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. Okay, so first of all, I have the question, like, how much of the food was destroyed in this battle?
Yeah,
Because, like you said, maybe a dozen carts.
yeah.
Certainly that can't be all the food from the
No.
north. But it's a good chunk of food.
Well, I mean this is what I'm saying about not.
And how does Dany know?
The positive thing about not quantifying these geographic and numerical and how much of a fleet did we lose and how many men do we have is that it allows them options, that they can be kind of slippery and doing all these battles without thinking. The downside is, like, again, I just saw Dany scorch a whole wagon train. Is that all the food? Is it some of the
Right.
food? Is it enough food for the South but not the North? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be a hell of a lot more invested if I knew. So that's the downside.
Do the
of all this.
Dothraki, after the scenes that we see, do the Dothraki keep rampaging and destroy all the food? Take the food
Probably take
back
the food.
back to Dragonstone? Do they go up the line, killing all the stragglers of Lannister troops? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It ends kind of abruptly in the middle of the battle.
I mean, the fact that they worship Dany as a god is, I guess, the best. Like, because if she says, "Hey, don't do this thing,"
Sure.
they will not do it because she's got the might and she's demonstrated that.
How at that point, when everybody's like all scattered and stuff and fighting, and there are Lannister troops coming in and Dothraki are killing them,
Yeah.
how do you get up on Drogon and you shout, "Hey guys, stop!
Yeah.
Stop fighting.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, how do you get those troops back under control when there's still fighting happening?
I don't know. You could have Drogon land and just spread his wings around the Lannisters and be like, back off. One other
Drogon
point. Do you remember when Jaime rode up to the fray, a siege, and he lit their ass up for not having scouts and outriders?
Yeah.
How in the hell does Jaime not have scouts and outriders? Because here's the thing.
I don't know.
I feel like it would have been a lot cooler and a lot more grounded in reality instead of Bronn just using his spidey sense to hear the hoofbeats of the Dothraki, to have like a single Lannister rider cresting that hill, like riding hell-bent for leather. Mm-hmm. And then as he gets off, like he falls off and you see he's like riddled with arrows. And it's like, then you know that they did have the scouts. The fact the scouts just got ran down and they weren't fast enough to ride fast in Dothraki. This way, you have to think that Jaime is so stupid he doesn't even know the lessons that we know he knows in universe, because he just scolded. I mean, they made the phrase look militarily incompetent because they didn't have this basic strategy.
Right. At the very least, you have somebody on that hill.
That's what pisses me off, the fact that, like, there's no one in the writer's room that remembered, oh, wait, guys, last season was a plot point that these guys are militarily incompetent because they didn't have scouts and outriders. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's the other the little peeve I had.
Yeah, I wish they would have at least mentioned it. Like, if Jaime said, "What about our scouts?" or like, "Where are the scouts?"
Right.
Or "Where were the scouts?" Like,
right.
Because then you could imagine, okay, Drogon bit one in half or something.
Because no one is prepared for a fire-breathing lizard the size of a 747.
No, and you can't outrun it.
You can't, right? But the fact that it's not, it just you just left to think that, like, well, they just left their pants down.
Yeah.
And we're already I don't know, made us part of it, because they kind of hinted that they were a little slovenly in their formations, and but then again, like, why have Randall Tarley, who's this battlefield commander of some renown, if you're not going to listen to his advice? Like, you got to warn the men they're going to be flogged for not doing their duty to their utmost. Come on, Jaime.
The other thing that we haven't really talked about, a couple of things actually, is Tyrion and his reaction to this whole thing. We mentioned it, we hinted at it a few scenes back, but in this it really comes to a head where you see Tyrion is struggling with the idea that he might have just killed his brother here in this battle. And then he sees Jaime out there, and he doesn't want him to die, right? He sees him charging in. He's like, "No, you fucking idiot. Flee, you fucking idiot."
Right.
So Tyrion is, despite what he might be telling himself, still very conflicted about what this means for his family. Right.
And, yeah, like the fact that, what does he feel about Jaime? What does he feel about his countrymen?
Yeah.
I don't know if this means that there's going to be a weakness in Dany's council or what, but... because I think that you can think that this is terrible and have mixed emotions and still be true blue for Dany.
What's terrible?
Like the fact that your brother might die by dragonfire, and all of your your fellow countrymen, the Westerlands people, are being cut down. These are people that served you once. These are people that were loyal bannermen to your family, that fought and protected them.
Yeah.
It's simultaneously. It's just like, in the American Civil War. Like, you can read journal after journal of men being very conflicted about what they're doing for the cause they believe in, and how this is the brother on brother.
Yeah, and I don't think Tyrion has intentionally sabotaged Dany's side of this. I think he has made some decisions that didn't work out that may make it look like that to Dany.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's a mole in Dany's inner circle.
A lot of people are saying Varys might be that mole. Varys is on the battlefield this time, so
what? Varys was at this battle,
isn't he? Isn't he right up behind Tyrion? Maybe he's not.
I don't remember. I thought it was just there's Tyrion and the Dothraki generals, I guess.
I know I saw them. Yeah, scratch that. He might not be there. But
even if he
isn't, then he's not doing his job, right? If he's the mole and he's not there, then he didn't warn Jaime,
right?
When he should have sent a raven or something,
right?
So I don't know about the Varys being a mole. I think that Varys is for the realm and that he views Dany as good for the realm.
I agree, and I'll be somewhat miffed that I didn't, that I believed him when he said all that. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me as somebody, because part of me, I'm not too critical about like, oh, how did Euron know how? Because it could be a plot point later in the season that there is someone on the inside of both realms, and there's a spy versus spy going, and then like this is a plot point, not an oversight, and then won't we feel like assholes?
Sure.
So I'm not too much on that. If we get through the whole season and there's no obvious betrayal on either side, then maybe we can think back and like, okay, maybe some of this stuff was too convenient for its own good, but. Whatevs, man. It was. If you allow stuff for the rule of cool, this is like the coolest thing I've seen on television. So I guess you have to correspondingly allow a lot.
Yep. And that's it for the episode.
Yep. Before we get to feedback, I want to mention today's sponsor, Audible. Audible's offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audible.com/GOT and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Just have to go to audible.com/GOT and get started today. Also, it's germane to note that I'm actually a member of Audible, and one of Audible's taglines is, you can't make more time, you can just make more use of the time that you got on this here planet. And
it's very philosophical.
It is. And one of the ways I made use of more time back in the day, when I still was working a full-time job and I was trying to read all the Game of Thrones library, which, by the way, all of George Martin's work of The Song of Ice and Fire is available on Audible. I prefer to read, but I didn't have enough hours in the day to do so. So on my commutes, I would listen to the audiobooks on Audible. And what's really cool is when I was reading on my Kindle, it uses the same WhisperSync technology. So wherever I left off in the evenings of reading, it would pick up right the next day when I was commuting or mowing my lawn or doing the dishes or whatever. And, you can get pretty wrapped up in it. Like, there's a bunch of times where I would pull up in my driveway and sit in the car for another 10 or 15 minutes to get to the end of the chapter because I was just wrapped up in what's going on.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you have a smartphone, you have an Audible compatible audio player, and there's a lot of really cool features, not just the WhisperSync stuff, but the fact that you can adjust the speed at which a narrator reads. I think is very cool, because one of my criticisms of audiobooks is like sometimes it's very rarely that someone reads at a pace that you're comfortable with.
Right.
Well, now you can adjust it by any kind of factor and slow it down, speed it up, and it's great. It's a great way to experience the series. It's very cinematic. The guy that they have reading it is very dramatic, and he's very good at being like a cast of 1,000 voices with accents and effects and being able to age his voice up and down. It's really great, and they have an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, all kind. It's anything spoken word you can probably find on Audible. So again, they're offering exclusive to our members or our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. You just got to go to audible.com/GOT, use that code, and get your free audiobook with a 30-day trial. So check it out and get started today. Today's podcast is also sponsored by club.baldmove.com, because of course it is. You think you're going to get away without hearing a club ad? Well, you're wrong. It's our largest source of revenue. It's a great way to support our independent podcast. It's the only reason we're able to give 3 different podcasts all throughout the week to keep your Game of Thrones fix going. And the reason we can spend so much time doing research and reading email and watching the episode multiple times is because we enjoy direct listener support, which allows us to keep our independent voice and allows us to be the voice for the fans. So if you appreciate the stuff that we do and you want to get bonus content, you're tired of hearing us hawk the different ads, including Club Bald Move, you get ad-free audio feeds, you get exclusive bonus audio and video content. You get access to spoiler reviews of our first-run movies, Lunch with Jim and Aaron, which is just me and Jim once a week. We sit down on Friday around lunchtime, and we just bullshit. We take questions from listeners. We talk about topics of current interest. It's a lot of fun. You get VIP access to forums, much more. You can go to club.baldmove.com. On that landing page is a pitch. It includes all of the content that we have available. Just to kind of whet your appetite, at the end of this podcast, we are dropping a little segment from the Quip that we did last week. Quip stands for Quit Your Pitchin', where we randomly generate a title of an episode of a television show or a movie, and then we take turns speculating on what that would be about. This week was for a show called This Is Your Men, where it talks about the premises. Camera crews follow some unlucky gentleman before he's engaged or married to some unluckier woman, and they just capture all the just embarrassed, like, you know, from what you jerk off to picking your nose in traffic, and they show it to her, like, look, this is your man. Do you want to change your mind? And you find out some stuff about Jim and I, mostly me, mostly bad, mostly revolting things, stuff that I probably shouldn't have said on a microphone on the internet. But enjoy that for free, and if you like that, then come back for the full strength edition. And hey, you get a 30-day free trial just by signing up at club.baldmove.com. Check it out. Shall we get to feedback, Jim?
Yeah, let's do it.
Got some emails about old business up front. Amanda T says, hey guys, I haven't heard anyone bring this up, but did you notice that what Cersei did to Ilaria, she has brought up twice before? First, you mentioned to Jaime how when her mother died, all she could think about was her decomposing inner crypt, her lips peeling away, and her skin turning black. And again, when Myrcella died, about her beautiful face collapsing and such. She has some kind of deep fear obsession with seeing someone she loves decomposing. I'm just wondering if this is significant in any way, or is she just giving Ilaria her own biggest fear in the world? Thoughts?
I've literally never thought about that, so no.
Well, I'm going to look at it through this lens. Cersei, since she was 12 or 13, whenever she got the prophecy from the Maggie the Frog, she has been scared to death at the fulfillment of this prophecy. And one of the big things was a queen more beautiful than you are going to come and throw you down. So this is very mirror, mirror on the wall. Like, she's obsessed with the youth and beauty, and those are also chiefly her weapons. You'll remember her counseling Sansa on how to wield those weapons effectively. And it's I guess I feel like that, you know, stereotypically the females fear losing their youth and beauty the way men fear losing their strength and vitality as a part of the aging process. And then you take that and then you stoke that fear by having this prophecy stalking you throughout your whole life. I think that's why she's so concerned about this corruption of beauty and the power it holds. But that's just my amateur narrative psychology. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Steve W., you guys asked why Jon is hesitant on letting Davos spill the beans about his resurrection. Well, the bigger question is, why isn't Tyrion asking, hey, how come you aren't Lord Commander even in the Night's Watch any longer? I mean, he took a vow until death, but yet here he is, free of the Night's Watch title and now King of the North? I felt like they lampshaded that pretty good, because Tyrion said something like, I bet there's some story about how you rose the King of the North. So I don't know what more we want to see. Like, I don't know. I mean, because that's the thing. Like, if you show everything that someone might passingly have a concern with, you would end up with the books.
Right.
So the TV show has to kind of streamline that stuff, and I don't know. It does seem like they're saving it for some kind of reveal, and I don't know why. Any more thoughts on that?
No, I think maybe we'll get some kind of conversation in the future.
Okay.
But it wasn't a huge concern at the time.
Right. Caitlin W., we talked about Miss Sandy being kind of coy with Davos last week. She says, this is such a throwaway thing, but I had a different take on the interaction between Davos and Miss Sandy. I don't think she was purposely trying to ice Davos in that moment or make him feel small. I think there's a couple things it could have been. He was speaking so highly of her homeland and how lovely it sounded, but for her, thinking of Noth is probably bittersweet and potentially traumatizing. Instead of her trying to explain that she was enslaved at an early age and wasn't able to enjoy the quote-unquote palm trees and butterflies, it was easier for her to just keep on moving. But also, maybe the more likely reason is this. I was reading a little about Noth on the Game of Thrones wiki, and it sounds like there are some crazy-ass butterflies there that carry a disease that makes the flesh literally slough off men's bones. The Nathi themselves are immune to it. For centuries, would-be foreign invaders would end up succumbing to butterfly fever. With Davos mentioning how pleasant the butterflies sound, Miss Sandy's reaction of, yeah, okay, buddy, works well with that as context, but without the interaction falls a little flat.
It's the bite of the butterfly that gives you that disease.
That's right.
Those butterflies are
butterfly,
deadly.
The teeth of the butterfly.
Yep.
I'm now picturing these butterflies teaming up with the White Walkers and meeting them in the middle to destroy all of mankind.
Ice butterflies?
Missandei as princess as promised, and she's the only one around that's immune to the fever. That's a great. I had skipped over that in reading the World of Ice and Fire, but that's a super, because I think you're right. It works. It works the first way, but also if it's Missandei enjoying a private joke about, oh yeah, butterflies are great. They'll eat the flesh off your bones.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny too.
And just not wanting to really go into her background in Narth, right?
And I do think that our take wasn't terrible too. The fact that obviously a lot of this meetup was there to intimidate and impress Davos and Jon, and if she's sitting there, laughing and yucking it up with Davos about memories of her homeland, that steals away from the effect.
And maybe she leaves out a title accidentally,
Right. Bringer of butterflies. Anna W. Listening to the podcast last week, I was struck by the discussion that you and Jim had over the Ice versus Fire and the different leadership styles of Jon and Dany. It occurred to me that any of the reasons why we are so focused on these differences in style, I think, is because Jon and Dany each are employing leadership strategies that are associated with the other gender type. Female leaders are traditionally considered to employ we over me strategies, where success is measured by the success of the group and not for personal glory, gain, or goal. Leadership roles are thought to be less in demand for women, whereas they tend to become leaders just due to having natural ability to work with others to accomplish a goal. On the other hand, male leaders traditionally are more outrightly aggressive and tend to be more self-serving or at least self-promoting and not generally hesitating to take credit where things go well. Of course, these are stereotypes, parenthetically, #NotAllMen, but I think it's notable that these gender leadership tropes apply in reverse to Jon and Dany, and I think it might be the reason why their contrasts are so noticeable. What do you think of that?
I'm not stepping into that one. No.
You coward.
Nope, not doing it.
I think it's interesting that to the extent that Gurm likes to invert tropes, that might be yet another one that he's doing, where the prince that was promised is stereotypically more feminine in his leadership style, and the princess is traditionally more masculine. And if you then add the gender bending aspect of the Valyrian word for prince/princess, it's even more interesting. See, I don't think I got my limbs blown off.
Oh, you'll
waiting in
have
that
some
minefield.
emails waiting for you.
Yeah, well, people all have their opinions. Ashley C. Is House Mormont more important than we realize? A disproportionate number of critical supporting characters were drawn from the same family. Jon's mentor at the Wall, Dany's protector and confidant in Essos, the Stark's more stubbornly loyal and vocal banner woman before and after the Battle of the Bastards. The Game of Thrones wiki lists more than 20 minor houses in the North alone, and George Martin took the time to name them all. If their all being related wasn't somehow significant, wouldn't it have made more sense to draw from another house here and there?
I don't know. I mean, it feels to me like they're significant in the same way that, like, Pod is significant to the overall story, right? Like, he helps a character who helps the characters who are the most important.
Right.
Like,
and he's related to Ilyn Payne, who we already... Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of like the story is so vast in scope that everybody's kind of important in their own ways,
yes,
and they interact in these weird, strange ways. But, like, is House Mormont more important than, like, I don't know,
Umbers
well, I was gonna say Umbers, but yeah, they were kind of assholes. Well, for a while they were, but yeah, are they more important than the Umbers? Not really.
And I think the reason that you hear these houses over and over again is because we do have this big sprawling story, and it's already enough that I think that to the extent that like a dedicated show watcher hears the House Mormont and they know that means something and that's familiar, and they can feel clever about that memory. Whereas if you say, it's House Manderley or whatever, then and worse, or if you start going like with House Bolton, then people get negative reaction to those bannermen. So it's more of just like trying to pare it down and keep the universe as small as you can. Like, it's already a big universe for a television show. That if you just start listing these other minor northern houses, it's just going to get even more confusing. Ryan J. The death of Lady Olenna in Episode 3 was devastating. She alone arguably knew all the moves in the Game of Thrones and played well, but ultimately lost because, as she admits, she didn't go far enough in her maneuvers. The opening scene of her in-game standing at the high tower balustrade is sure,
Okay.
whatever that is, especially with what that momentary eye drop before moving away from the balcony. She knew she had lost and her fate was sealed. Diana Rigg gave a masterclass in the following scene with Jaime, where Olenna accepts her fate like the thorn of a bouquet rose. Accepts her fate, but like the thorn of a bouquet rose could still draw blood. However, at Daenerys' War Council in Episode 2, when she and Olenna talk privately, Olenna comments that Tyrion is a clever man, and how she has known many clever men over her long years, but survived them all by not listening to them, before directly telling Daenerys to be a dragon. Olenna did not favor Tyrion's war plan, but accepted it nonetheless, as Daenerys had already voiced her support. Instead, if Dany had taken Olenna's sage advice and had not listened to Tyrion, but had followed the guidance of her wise and skilled Westerosi council, neither Olenna nor Alari would be dead. Tyrion has much blood on his hands already, and his continued counsel to Daenerys seems to offer nothing of substance. Tyrion's taking a beating amongst the fan community, it seems.
Yeah, rightfully so. His plan was shit. It may not have been a bad plan when it began, but it was a worse plan than the enemy's plan.
But is it Tyrion's fault, or is it because Tyrion is not he's the counselor and strategist? Is it not a bigger failure of Varys to not establish a spy network to get him the intelligence they need? Because he's acting on bad info. Sure.
No, I think it's easy to blame the general, which I would call Tyrion in this, but certainly the espionage networks were not as good as they could have been.
Well, the other thing is, like, I want to push back and play devil's advocate. If Daenerys had listened to Olenna, who, by the way, arguably not acting in the good of the realm,
Nope.
she is singularly bent on revenge.
Yep.
Everything that Tyrion and Jon says is likely true. She would have been seen as a tyrant if someone had took it, and she would had this uphill climb to get the loyalty of the people on her side. So, it's tough to say with Lady Olenna. Lady Olenna was always for what's best for House Tyrell. Mm-hmm. And since House Tyrell is gone, it's more about what's worse for the Lannisters, not what's best for Dany.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. On new business, Jane Ward. During the awesome fight scene tonight, I thought of Jorah's Season 1 conversation with a young Dothraki warrior about how an Arak, the sword of the Dothraki, would be no good against armor. Mm-hmm. Was he wrong, or did the Dothraki learn from that and adjust their fighting tactics, or were the Lannister guys just idiots and not wearing helmets for some reason? I expect the Westerosi Knights to give a much better fight overall. Do you have any insight onto this?
It's a fair question. I mean, I think the dragon is the wild card here,
right?
But they did seem to be, the armor seemed to be less than effective against those weapons.
I don't know why. I mean, I do know why no one of importance runs around with helmets on, because it obscures their faces. It's the NFL problem. The reason the NFL doesn't have more marketable stars is because when they're on the field playing the game, they wear helmets.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't think they do a good enough job at, because Lord of the Rings never had that problem. Like when Yomer and Theoden were riding to battle, they had helmets on because, of course, they would. They're not stupid. They just had very ornate and distinctive helmets.
Right.
I don't know. The other thing is, like, the Dothraki are supposed to be very fearsome in open terrain, and the traditional way to defeat that is to, as Randall was doing, form up everybody into lines, get your shields out, get your pikes and spears out, and have the horses have to throw themselves on those. Dany fucked that up by just incinerating a gap in that line.
Yeah.
So, like, hand to hand, if it's just one random Westerosi knight versus some random Dothraki, I think the armor would work, because you saw Jorah, like, he essentially caught the blade with his breastplate and then killed the dude, right?
Right.
It's a different when dudes coming at you with horses and riding you down with double rocks, and they had spears and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was nifty, the jumping moves they did, and also they were doing a lot of throat slitting. So
yeah, that's one of the things we didn't talk about in that last scene is, you're kind of blinded by the dragon fire and the other cool stuff going on, but man, those riders Like those were actual stunt people standing
Yes.
on real horses.
Yes.
In these like modified stirrups.
It reminded me a lot of like Dan Carlin talking about the
Mongols, yeah.
the Mongol, the steppe people,
Yeah.
and how good they were on horseback, and how you got them on a saddle from the time they were 2 years old.
Yep.
So you have these guys that were just essentially born on horses, and how they were essentially a single fighting unit, horse and man, and they really showed that the fact that these guys were shooting these dead on shots with their arrows from horseback, the fact that they're doing all the gymnastic shit.
Yeah.
I bought it because that's the thing. Like the Dothraki have always been kind of unbeatable on the open plain. Jaime was on open plain.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to do the traditional anti-infantry cavalry tactic, and Dany blasted it. I didn't have a big problem. Now we'll see in the future if it's more of a siege thing or if it's more close up, like what they can do. But this is like the ideal situation. They had heavy cavalry and close air support.
Yeah.
It's pretty unbeatable. Julian S. from London. What a great episode. Excellent battle sequences. But why the hell was the setting out of a dusty old Wild West film? A dusty trail, a wagon train, fucking desert buttes in the Reach. Not only does the setting look wrong, the weather's wrong too. It's now been many months since the White Ravens was sent heralding that winter has come to Westeros. It should be snowing. Your thoughts?
I don't know where exactly they were. I don't know if they were right outside of King's Landing or if they were hundreds of miles north.
That's the Blackwater Rush, which I think there was some behind the scenes. Like, I don't know if someone in the episode mentioned that in the background or if that was something that was on behind the episodes. But yeah, they were very close to King's Landing. Which makes sense because how much further could the gold get ahead of the convoy?
Yeah.
But I did some research. I looked into the So Spake Martin archive. This is something that the Westeros.org maintains. It's all the public emails and speeches that Martin's ever given of interest to the world, indexed by topic. Mm-hmm. And someone asked him in an email, does it ever snow in the South during winter? And Martin replied, yes, sometimes in some places. The Mountains of the Moon get quite a bit of snow. The Vale and the Riverlands and the Westlands rather less, but some. King's Landing gets snow infrequently. The Stormlands and the Reach rarely. Old Town and Dorne almost never. So as you go further south, winter has less of an effect, with the exception that the White Walkers bring cold. So in most non-supernatural, well, I guess they're all supernatural. On non-White Walker fueled winters, even the severe ones don't ever get much south of Dorne. And then you've also got the Summer Islands, which are in the equator, and they're named the Summer Islands because it's summer there all the time. But if the White Walkers get past the wall and march south, like potentially the whole world could be frozen. So it would not be like, since we know that the White Walkers are north of the wall, it wouldn't be appropriate for it to be snowing in the Reach or the King's Land, the Crown Lands right now. Josh W. Question: even with the new gold now safely in King's Landing, do you think the Iron Bank would think twice about loaning Cersei after the display by Drogon? I think they'd have to look at the wholesale slaughter of the Lannister army and have second thoughts about helping Cersei. Also, now that the harvest has been burnt, wasn't all collected from the Reach, Cersei will be severely short on food and provisions for the coming winter, making her even a less of a sound investment. What do you think, Jim? Do you think the Iron Bank is going to get paid in full and then be like, ugh?
I think they have to at least consider it.
Yeah, you got no food, you got no dragons, you got gold, you can't eat gold.
Yeah.
You can't feed armies you buy with gold.
Yeah, I don't know, unless they're like super convinced that this gold company can turn the tide against dragons, then maybe they'll be on board. But I could totally see them supporting Dany instead, or just
saying, "Hey, I'm getting out of here," because that's the thing. Like, even if they do the Golden Company, if they don't have food and they don't have dragons, what the hell? What the hell? Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be interesting if like she pays off the Iron Bank and the Iron Banker's like, okay, well here's the deal, we'll sell you food, but we'll loan you money for food, but no longer for armies, because even if you survive with no food, the people will eat you alive. There's going to be some interesting, because you're right. If this Nestor with his power glove just decides that this doesn't change anything, that'll be so fucking unrealistic.
He needs to at least consider the options here.
Yeah.
What's the status of Dorne and food?
How
much do they produce?
Huh?
How much do they produce? I
They're
know
a
they produce
desert
a lot of
mountain.
wine.
They're a desert mountainous people. They produce free love.
They produce enough
and,
to feed
and passable
themselves,
wine.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Like that's about it, though.
Sure. That's a good question, and I wonder because a lot of people ask me about Dorne. I'm like, I fucking don't know. Like, there is no power, there is no leadership down in Dorne.
None right now.
There's Dorne has the largest unbloodied army, but no one to lead it or command it.
True.
Now, nature abhors a vacuum. I'm sure that power vacuum will be filled eventually, but on the timetables we're talking about, there could be this massive Dornish civil war that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Of the pro Sand Snake side, and they're like, hey, this Sand Snake revenge, fire and blood shit has gotten us fucked. Let's stop doing it.
I'm with Doran.
But there's no evidence.
Doran.
There's absolutely zero evidence either way. So I don't think it's wise to speculate. Moving on. Michael R., do you guys think it's possible that Jon knelt while he was in a cave with Daenerys?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many people asked this. He was the first of many, and I'm like, you gotta think about this as a TV show. If something that significant happens and they don't show it as it happens, it's just or immediately address it. It would be it's crazy. It's crazy. Like that's the whole idea of a visual medium is you show people important events, and this is arguably the most important thing that could happen outside of like Cersei being assassinated, the White Walkers crossing. A lot of people are like, oh, maybe is it possible the White Walkers across the wall? No fucking way.
No, they're going to show us that.
No fucking way.
Happens.
Will the White Walkers cross the wall and we not know about it until after the fact?
Like, we're focused on this siege at King's Landing with the dragons and the Dothraki, and then all of a sudden the White Walkers walk up.
Right.
What? Where'd you come from?
Forgot about Dre. No, it's just not going to work that way. No. At least I refuse to accept that they would do something that bullshit and amateur. So that there you go. That's my standing.
He's calling you an amateur. That's what he's saying.
No, I'm calling the Double D's an amateur if they would do. No, Michael R. is not a professional filmmaker or screenwriter. I'm just saying that's the thing.
So by definition, he would be an amateur.
Yes, Michael R. In absence of knowing anything else about you except for email address, you are an amateur screenwriter, and that shit wouldn't fly on a show like Game of Thrones. So. And that's the thing. Like anybody writing in future, always ask you, like, nothing is going to happen off camera. You can't yada Jon kneeling before Dany and pledging his fealty.
I'm with you.
Alan C. Just want to check to see if my timeline or my line of thinking is correct. The Lannister army got cooked. Ed Sheeran was in the Lannister army, so Ed Sheeran is Ash now. We can hope.
Probably. I don't know where that
was a
little
small detachment that was supposed to be going to the Riverlands to maintain the peace while the other power vacuum with the Freys being killed.
I hate to say it, but I don't think he was in that group of
he might
the
be,
train
because they were coming. Although, they were the Reach. Yeah, that's not exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yep.
But it's impossible to know. Rich B. I listened to the instant cast and was surprised to hear Jim wasn't feeling the heat in the cave scene. Maybe he needs to get his thermostat checked. I'm officially shipping them now. Family tree be damned.
The heat was there. I just wasn't focused on the heat.
You weren't feeling it. It needs to be turned up a few degrees.
I guess so, yeah.
I will say that if I didn't keep an exact count, but my estimate is like 60-40 feeling the heat versus not feeling the heat in my feedback.
Yeah, okay. That feels about right. I don't think the heat was like...
It was a lot... I expected some like cyborg holdouts such as yourself, but I thought that like most people would watch, so it's like there you go. There's my bias, and I'm wrong.
I thought the only
sizable minority was like, nope, felt it was completely lackluster and not feeling it all.
Oh, see, now I disagree with those people because I think there was something there, and I think it was demonstrated in that little hand, that wrist grab that he does.
Yeah.
That's where, on second viewing, I noticed it, but that was really the only place I noticed.
That's what Cecily said. She goes, like, it's like, when he actually took her by the hand to, like, lead her into the cave, that was, physical contact. Like, that's like if guys, by the way, or women, if you want to know whether a guy or girl's flirting with you, if they're just touching your hand randomly or touching your arm or that's physical contact is a form of flirting.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I don't know if Jon is skillful enough to do that. He might have just been like, hey, don't trip. But yeah, I think there was. I thought there was heat. I thought they're cute.
Yeah,
I thought they had
a little heat.
I was worried because I feel like Amelia can sometimes be a cold fish, and I know that Kit Harington can also be that way. So I was worried, like, man, if this is a Song of Ice and Fire, and there's any kind of relationship between them at all, they have no chemistry. But I thought their chemistry was pretty good. The torchlight didn't hurt. Wes from Nashville. One thing I struggle with that they make such a big deal about is people following Danny because they choose to, driving it further home with a speech to John from Missandei this episode. So why is Danny so insistent on forcing John to bend the knee when her thing is to for people to follow her because they choose to?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know.
Do you think Danny is just seen as... I mean, Danny seems like she loves the common folk. And she has a distrust of the ruling class.
Okay.
So I think that it still hasn't, just a way that, John saw her as some up-jumped pretty girl who has a bunch of flowery titles and blood claim. And it's
a fancy name.
And we know that Danny's a lot more than that. She sees him as some upstart, anti-kneeling, fancy pants from a northern castle who just is stubbornly refusing to kneel.
Yeah.
So I feel like... and the fact that John is not allowing Davos to toot his own horn about that, like I think that neither of their situation has really sunk into the other quite yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Missandei understands the situation better than either John or Danny. And I wish she would just explain it to them. Like, get them both in a room and say, hey, you're the same.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Just make out.
Come on. Everybody wants to see it.
Right.
I want to see the content advisory, ice and fire. If there's an IF in front of it, that means that's code for Danny and John boning. Kids, hide your eyes. All right, Nicholas M. What do you speaking of heat, cave heat? What do you think of Jon Snow in the cave with Danny being a callback to his relationship with Ygritte? From the simplest level, Jon and Ygritte's relationship was really taken to the next level in a cave. His relationship with her. That's funny. His relationship with her ended with the famous line of, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Now he knows more about so many things than anyone else can even fathom. He's the one who tells Danny and Tyrion about Dragonglass, how they'll need to join together, and was right about the Night King as revealed by the cave paintings. These cave writings are what pushed Danny's belief in him to the next level of trust. Additionally, he broke the Night's Watch vow of celibacy because he was made weak by his relationship with Ygritte. Will he break his promise to the North of not bowing the knee because of a developing love story with Danny?
No, I don't think so. I think Jon has come a long way since that moment.
Yeah.
And he has bigger goals in mind. I really do believe him when, Davos suggested, and he's like, I've got more important things on my mind.
Right.
Now, I don't know how long he will hold out in that view, and if he doesn't see a way to kind of mesh the two.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think Jon's the same person he was back then.
Jon's also famously obtuse. Like, you have to
right.
If Davos suggests, have you thought of marriage alliance? He'd be like, I have no time for love. And he's like, dumbass, I'm talking about uniting the houses and the armies and get,
right.
Jon's thinking this is the fucking Bachelor show, and Davos is thinking next level alliance. I don't know. It'll be interesting. And also, yeah, Jon is one of those guys that needs a prop, a fedora. His caves are his fedora.
Yeah.
He feels naturally more confident and romantic and sexually adventurous when he's confined in a subterranean cavern.
I do think that they're drawing some allusions to it, certainly.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not quite as significant as a lot of people were hoping.
Allison F., I have a random question. Why aren't there any female White Walkers? Lots of female whites, but none of the actual White Walkers. Is that why they need babies to create new White Walkers through the cheek touch thing?
Are there male White Walkers?
Is that the only way to expand their number? There aren't very many of them. What if they've been given a little baby girl to sacrifice instead?
I don't know enough about the White Walkers to even say
no one does
that they're male or female, or this baby they turned grew up to be one of them. I don't know.
So we know that the first White Walker was unambiguously a man.
He was, yes.
We know that they only take Craster's boys. Now,
right.
That might be because that's what Craster's willing to give them. He wants to keep all the daughters because they're his future sister-daughter wives.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And he doesn't want he feels like he can physically cow them and dominate over them where he couldn't some young strapping son.
Right.
I don't know. But it's an interesting question, and you're also right to say what is gender even a thing amongst these ice monsters?
Once you're turned into one of them, what does that even mean?
Right.
I don't know.
So, is it a thing? Because I feel like I read something recently that asexual reproduction is the rule in biology, and that's not right. I think even because the evolutionary advantage of sexual reproduction
gives
is pretty strong.
I think in like really, really primitive like forms of life,
right?
Like amoebas, obviously.
But
they're not doing any banging.
Right.
But I think as you get higher and higher
they're
up,
doing splitting. They don't bang, they split.
They do.
And they don't involve other amoebas. It's just like amoeba decides, time to split. All right, that went nowhere.
Yeah.
There you go, Allison. But the thing is, there's absolutely nothing. This cheek stuff, it doesn't even happen in the books. We're so far beyond the books and our understanding, and yet we still don't know much about their culture and their biology. So,
right.
Turns out the high Glotarian, is a genderless language too. So who knows? Jay, regarding a defense of Tyrion. Tyrion's been getting shit on, so Jay's going to defend him.
Okay.
Both the show and your podcast, Tyrion has taken quite a large amount of heat from failing as a strategist and/or Hand of the Queen. However, while I admit that his plan has been a disaster so far, I don't necessarily agree that he should take all the blame. His logic was sound for all the reasons he gave. Tyrion's at the mercy of information he has, and he has been severely lacking. First, it seems that given Varys severed ties from the Little Birds, there isn't the wealth of info he'd normally be able to provide. Tyrion must not have known about Euron's fleet of 1,000 ships, which is something that Varys would normally have provided. By contrast, it seems that Cersei knew exactly what Dany had at her disposal. Also, the reason why Jaime was able to take Highgarden was the betrayal of all the Tyrell bannermen. If Olenna Tyrell would have shored up her defenses with reassurance from them, Highgarden wouldn't necessarily have been defeated. This is not on Tyrion's shoulders. Olenna let him down in that regard. Imagine if Tyrion could have counted on Highgarden and their bannermen. Imagine Tyrion knew that Euron was working with Cersei and had 1,000 ships. Given this information, his counsel would have been vastly different, I suspect.
Here's where I disagree, I guess I agree with the majority of people who are shitting on Tyrion. I think Tyrion did let his family get in the way of this battle, and he did it in a way that, in kind of the opposite way that you would think, because he's not so concerned with like killing Jaime that he's not going to fight this battle the way he thinks it should be fought. What he did is he leaned too heavily on what he knew about his family, because if you take Tyrion out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
Nobody goes after Casterly Rock.
Right.
It's not important. What's important would be Highgarden, would be the grain, right? Like they would shore up Highgarden, they would strike somewhere else, not like
you don't think that
the heart of Cersei.
You don't think someone from Westeros would think that the Lannisters have all the gold and they're the ones supplying the crown with it? I mean,
but he knows the gold mines are. Everybody knows the gold mines are dry, right?
I don't think everyone knows that. That's something that Tywin told Cersei.
Okay.
I think it's something also Lady Olenna suspected, just because of how much.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Tywin was willing to go into with him, but
I don't know if your plan is to siege King's Landing.
Right.
Also, gold doesn't matter.
Right.
So maybe go take the food.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking maybe Tyrion leaned too heavily on his knowledge of the Lannisters.
And you're right. Like it's
thinking that would be an irresistible.
How could even Tyrion say that his motives are pure in that, because he's not aware of his own biases, sticking it to his family. And getting what he sees as his birthright might have clouded his judgment in a way that he even doesn't know and couldn't articulate.
Yeah.
All right. Chelsea C. Maybe I should...
But let me say, I do also agree that not all of the blame is on Tyrion.
Yeah. And
there are plenty of things that should have been done that weren't.
The fact that there's no mention of spies and intelligence when it's been such a big part of the show makes me think that it's going to be a plot point later on. Like that, like the ultimate like fan masturbation would be like Varys, dressed up in his like brown robes, jailer garb, killing Qyburn, thinking you think you could win my little birds with some sweets and intimidation, and ganks him. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool, but I doubt it's exactly. But like, there's no way Varys can't outfight fucking Qyburn. Qyburn might be the smartest person Cersei's ever known, but.
Yeah,
that doesn't impress me very much.
No, he's not. I don't think he's a strategical prodigy.
No,
or a. He's not the mastermind that Varys is.
No, he's half warlock. He can bring people back to the dead and torture them in inventive ways and do death and destruction. But I don't think he's got the.
He's book smart.
He's got I don't think he's got the political strategic mind that Varys has got. So
yeah.
And to the extent that is just kind of like a black hole in this show right now, I feel like that'll be later addressed. I could be disappointed later. We'll see. Chelsea C. Maybe I shouldn't count him out, but I think Littlefinger's toast. I think his last game was trying to drive a wedge through the Starks, but it doesn't feel promising. Is there a greater wedge than Arya becoming a faceless assassin, Bran being a tree god, Jon being a Azor Ahai, and Sansa remaining a muggle? Except for Jon and Sansa, they aren't really in the same line of work, especially with the other siblings in the mix. Jon and Sansa are going to be all in it for family. I would say that Littlefinger's going to die immediately except for one thing, the guest right. I'm kind of glad because it will keep Arya from going off half-cocked because they need a plan to retain the support of the Vale. So what do you think? And also, does guest right have a limit? Like, if it turns out that you're all sitting there eating their bread and salt and Bran just murmurs, oh, I just figured it out, Littlefinger totally is complicit in the murder of her father.
Right.
You got to be like, well, Littlefinger, good news and bad news. Good news, we're not going to kill you. Bad news is you got to move out before the dawn.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll kill you.
Yeah, and we have archers lined up in a
Right.
ring around all the gates. So,
Yeah.
here you go. Here's your parting gift. No longer guest right.
Certainly, I think there's a limit to it.
Yeah,
And Littlefinger has crossed that limit in the past.
yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting. It'd also be like, it reminds me of that quip that we did last week about the 2.5 Chris's, where all the Chris's in Hollywood are trying to trick the other into taking parts they don't want, and they're essentially this game where they're trying like Littlefinger's inventing reasons to stay, and the Starks are like, oh, but you're dry cleaning. You're dry cleaning back in King's Landing. They keep sending tickets. They're going to throw it all out, Littlefinger.
They should.
Lord Baelish.
I think what they should do is send, is his name Royce, Jan Royce, back to the Vale
Yeah.
because that creates a dilemma for Littlefinger,
to
right?
beat Sweet Robin's ass. Just beat him for
metaphorically.
years. No, physically.
Oh, God.
3 years of ass beating, and he might turn out okay.
I like
It's going
to
to
think
take that much ass beating, reverse all the late term breastfeeding and psychopathy that they've been ingrained in this little boy.
But it does create a dilemma for Littlefinger because then he could see his power slipping in both locations unless he leaves.
Oh.
So I don't know.
I just here's the thing, I don't want to underestimate Littlefinger, but at this point, even if he brings the head of Sansa to Cersei, I don't know that he doesn't end up in the Black Cells. Mm-hmm. And if he just stays pat at the Starks, he's just waiting for Bran to have a vision that shows what a shit he is.
Yeah.
Or for Sansa to, the only reason that, I guess Sansa thinks he declared for the Starks, and even though she doesn't trust him, she at least trusts in that.
I think she's foolish to trust in that too much.
Do you think she's foolish to trust in Jon? Because that's the other question. If Peter just says changed my mind, we're going to declare for Cersei, I don't know what the Lords of the Vale think about that. Because the other thing is, we don't need Bran. Cersei can just be like, yeah, this dude threw your protector of the realm out the moon door. So what are you guys doing?
I don't know.
Catherine G., just wondering who you think Bran is currently quote-unquote serving. Is he working for the good of the realm like Varys, or is he operating under what seems right to him at the time? Considering he's supposed to know a great deal about the happenings in Westeros, old Bran surely would have warned Arya and definitely Sansa that creepy Littlefinger essentially got their father killed. Is new Bran looking out for their safety because he knows they need Knights of the Vale, or is he unconcerned with his sister's personal safety because he's shut off from being emotionally attached to anyone?
I wish I had a good answer for this. At this point, my answer is I don't know what Bran's doing.
Like I said, my best guess is that this unfathomable cosmic knowledge that he has is not he's not omnipotent. He's not omniscient. Mm-hmm. He can know anything, but not at the same time, and not without some kind of inquiry or reason to think about it. Because
we think that's how it works,
but you're right.
But we're not even certain about that. We don't even know. He might have access to all information at all times,
right? And
just choosing not to act or where to act.
Because the other possibility is he's with this Hodor stuff. He's afraid to consciously manipulate the timeline,
right?
Like he can until he understands the scope of his powers, and I wonder if we're going to get an episode where we actually see him warging in, because we haven't seen that since his failure at the cave, right? And I mean, maybe he warged into the ice giant in the beginning of this season, but we haven't seen him taking one of these vision quests, and I feel like it's high time for us to see him do that.
Yeah,
because we need some answers to these questions, because right now there's so much daylight between what we know and don't know that he could be a double agent for the Whites. He could have been corrupted by the Three-Eyed Raven. The Three-Eyed Raven could have been evil this whole time. He could be afraid to manipulate the timeline. He could see timelines where he interferes and Sansa gets killed. Like, who the fuck knows?
No, the preferred narrative that I have going on in my head is Bran is working for the good of the realm,
right?
And he's selectively doing things to influence the timeline. But I don't know any of that for a fact,
right?
It's only just what I prefer to imagine.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, like, all the theories that say, well, maybe the Three-Eyed Raven is evil and was working with the others all the time, and maybe Bran's corrupted too, is like the Children of the Forest always supported the Three-Eyed Raven, and the Children of the Forest, like, sure, First Men weren't their first choice of allies, but they were allies. They did make a pact. That the men of the North have largely kept, and they're absolutely opposed to the others, to the White Walkers.
Yeah.
So are the Children of the Forest these eons old mystical magical beings that were the original masters of the Weirwood Network? Are they going to not know that the Three-Eyed Raven's turned traitor? It is weird though that the Three-Eyed Raven's not a child of the forest.
Yeah.
Like, why is it these men? Why are the greatest wielders of the power the men rather than the Children of the Forest?
Yeah, that's weird.
Anyway, so that's the email we got. I got a ton. Sorry I couldn't read everybody's email, but we do have another chance Friday. We've got a spoiler podcast where we talk about some book knowledge, which I think there's going to be a couple of interesting things to talk about, particularly around the Golden Company and some other things. We also talk some theories and speculation and some crazy theories. We do not talk about show spoilers. We do not talk about production spoilers or leaked episodes. Boy, that's getting out of control. Have you seen the latest? Like, these hackers are essentially ransoming HBO. Like, we got your executives' emails, and we've got your, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, unless there's some like go to jail nefarious shit here.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean they're ransoming it? Like
they want
we've
money.
Got your emails,
and
we're going to release them to the public.
We'll release all your private communications, which God, I mean, I don't know if it's jail worthy. Like, there's certainly stuff that probably, from a competitive advantage, they don't want it out there, and certainly they don't want all of these episodes leaked and the scripts leaked and all this other stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's just a bummer because it has dampened a little bit of our fun being able to speculate freely because of all these leaks. But we're gonna try it anyway. Just want to know that Spoiler Edition does have a little bit of stuff from the books. It's not a lot from the books, but it's mainly for background information and world building and a little bit of fun speculation. No production leaks. It's the Spoiler Edition. You can get your email out at GameOfThrones@baldmove.com. Or you can always go to our forums to talk with your fellow fans, and you can follow along with everything we do at baldmove.com on social media, facebook.com/baldmove, at baldmove at Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, if you're not already subscribed through iTunes or whatever platform you use, go ahead and subscribe. Because I know a lot of people just listen to like the episodes one-off, which seems weird to me.
Right.
You'll get them a lot faster if you subscribe to the feed.
That's actually a fact. iTunes does not update non-subscribers listings as fast as they do subscribers.
Okay.
Like, there's a noticeable gap between when the episode drops and just the open thing versus when you get it when you subscribe. So if you want it the fastest you can, you should join the club and watch us record it live.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Otherwise, subscribe on iTunes. But yeah, we'll be back Friday, and then again this Sunday for the instant take.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we are over the hump.
Oh yeah, this is halfway.
Over 50% of the season is already ticked before us.
I'm kind of bummed by that.
Yeah, we're lessening the blow a little bit this year because we're going to do season 2 after the season's over.
Yeah, but that's not as fun as
it's
new
not
stuff.
as much fun as the new stuff for sure. Especially since it sounds like we're going to have a hell of a wait for the next new stuff.
Yeah,
and it's even shorter. God help us all.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll see you back on Friday, hopefully, if not Sunday, for the instant take. Until then, I'm Aaron,
and I'm Jim.
See you later. This is your men.
This is your men? Oh boy, you got something for this?
I think this is kind of a reality show where you take a woman who's about to get married to a man tomorrow, and the film crew has followed this man around with 100%, with hidden cameras in his bedroom, in his bathroom, and his office, and he's not aware of this. He signed up for something, but you never know.
Didn't read the EULA.
No, they sign you up and say, like, look, we're going to film your whole life, and you're going to, but they don't tell you if you're accepted. So it's like you got that sort of, it's like, and how long? If
So
someone
it's
told
like
you,
the game.
If you sign a sheet that said someone's going to put these cameras and you're going to have this violation of privacy, but they're not going to tell you whether you're accepted into the program or not. Like, how long would you live as if everyone were watching you before you're like, you know what, fuck it.
The rest of my life.
Really?
The entire rest of my life.
Because I feel like a week went by and I'm like, I don't know. This is probably like how many? What's the odds that someone's going to be watching?
It takes a week to get the
now?
paperwork to their boss's desk, man. You're gonna be on the internet so fast.
Sure, but I also kind of live my life as if like I'm kind of cool with everyone knowing most of my deepest and darkest secrets. If not, like the most embarrassing thing is like what particular porn I got off into that one day, and I'm telling you, it's vile. Like not every day, like not even the most days, because like I found as I get older, I'm just like it's just like all like cheesecake is what I'm like. I just like looking at a good looking naked woman for a couple of minutes and I'm done.
All right,
but some days, some days when I'm feeling a little desensitized, it gets fucking weird. I'm telling you that.
Some days I don't have a burrito, so I get you.
That's right. And that you don't know how weird. Like even now, you're like, I wonder how fucking weird Aaron's. Like, weird, okay, weird. So the idea is like, you know, the day before you get married, you sit the lady down or the gentleman if it's a gay marriage, and you say, this is your man, and you the aim of this is to show the man at his lowest, most humiliating, like, and maybe it's a 360, like maybe you see the time
at
where he
best,
he like gave up the seat for the old lady, or he intervened when someone was trying to beat up he broke up a bum fight. Or something like that, you know. It's like it's but also the lowest of lows is there too.
Sure.
I don't see anyone not watching the shit out of that.
I agree. That's a great concept for a reality show. I think also it could do some good in society. I think it could improve marriages, like get that honesty out there right away. Because you know who you're marrying.
My suspicion is we tell each other that all of our relationships are bad and are miserable, but I kind of feel like that, like for the half of people that don't get divorced, like, it's got to be mostly good, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, if you get inside, it's probably weird and fucked up, and, like, there's a twisted sense of humor involved, but, like, there's got to be more happy people than not.
Of the people who stay married, certainly, yeah.
So there's good, like, you know, there's, like, this stereotype of, like, men that, like, there's incompetent and bumbling, and, like, it's, like, the latest thing seems to be, like, a lot of men in, like, commercials and stuff are just fucking morons, and the women are almost like these, like, overgrown mothers, just like, ugh, this guy. You know, ladies, right? Are all of our men this fucking stupid? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you're going to see some that are just like some of these guys, like a Dan Reichert type. Mm-hmm. Imagine. Can you explain to people who Dan Reichert is? Because I shouldn't just drop that name. He's not famous.
he's a guy who's on the Giant Bomb staff, and he does a lot of videos and podcasts for them. And he's a weird dude. He doesn't have a lot of life experience, or didn't have a lot of life experience when he moved out there. I don't want to talk too much crap about him,
right?
Even though I dislike him very strongly.
But imagine, so this guy got married in a Taco Bell.
He did.
Imagine
very
what
recently.
this is your man looks like.
Yeah. I can't imagine there's anything in This Is Your Men Dan Reichert edition that would have scared this woman off if she was willing to get married in a Taco Bell.
You felt like that's a good point. And also, do you feel like Dan, like he's like I guess that's the thing, is like if you're a disgusting human being, then the best way to be that is to be an unapologetic version. Like, hey, look, this is who I am. I'm going to have strong opinions on stuff I don't know anything about. I'm going to refuse to have adult tastes in anything. I'm going to, things that require adult tastes, I'm going to decry as snooty and dumb. And so, yeah, like that's like, you know, that's honesty. That's all you're trying to get to, right?
Right. That's
honesty.
the whole point of This Is Your Men. It's not to say that these things you're doing are inherently bad. It's to get to the honest truth of who you are.
Yeah.
Before you make the most important commitment, right?
Like if you jerk at the baby seals being clubbed, then your woman better know that, right?
And if she's cool with it, she's cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, but just get it out there.
Yeah, don't be doing stuff in secret. Don't that's not good.